Hello,
Hey,
how's it going?
going good. So
Good.
we're gonna do this blog until its end. What I mean by that is, if it takes 5, 6 videos,
Okay.
even 3 hours each, I don't care. Because I realize this is. I know people might not think about it, but the understanding of the actuality of how developed hunter gatherers were. I think
Right.
it's, in other words, what I'm saying is bigoted people put hunter gatherer and primitive together, which is
Right.
nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it starts, and that's why I told you before, a lot of these pseudo-archaeology stuff to me have inherent bigotry. They may not think, well, I'm not a racist or I'm not a bigot, but you are. The
Right.
reason these appeal to you is because of your bigotry. Like I said, when you think hunter gatherers or Native Americans or whatever, shamans or
Yeah.
you're putting this like not as good as us like mentality, which is bigotry and
Yeah.
distress. So
Yeah. For sure.
I
I,
realized, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say because we talked about unexamined biases before, right?
Right, right,
So that's where that kind of applies.
right. And that's what I'm trying to say is that implicit biases,
Yeah.
explicit, things, don't always have to be explicit, like, calling someone a racist thing. It's the thinking behind thinking that a hunter gatherer can't be advanced.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there you go.
Yeah.
Like, no
Exactly.
one's ever really said that, and archaeology is at least admitted it, because not that the archaeology's never been bigoted. It has been in the past, and maybe it still has elements that can be. But the goal is now getting a lot better with archaeology. But anyway, since the 70s, I think it's maybe the 60s, they've known that simple hunter-gatherer concepts that are basically, like I said, fucking bigotry, not reality at all, that those are wrong. And so they tried to invent something called complex hunter-gatherers to kind of
Okay.
explain this. Now, there's also a bunch of problems, I think, even that, especially back then, because sometimes what they basically meant is like a chieftain. They want to say, once again, the bigotry, instead of just saying, yes, they're just like us, they go, oh, okay, this society is hunter gatherer, but they have a chieftain. Okay, well, then that makes them a complex one. So it really, in other words, what I'm saying is,
Mm.
it wasn't like, in other words, like what I'm trying to say is, it wasn't like it has these elements of horticulture or aquaculture or whatever, fishing, hunting, that are, or advanced housing or whatever behavior, sedentarism, and that's why they're hunter gatherers. Not that that's not a good way of doing it, but it's more like they had something we can't explain, and thus it's complex, kind of. And I'm not trying
Okay.
to, in a sense, dog on old time archaeology, or that you're saying it. But I'm just saying the kind of reason that these things are thought this way. It's this mental framing, I feel, that people don't realize is their unrealized biases, that people have. So that's why I wanted to, I think, go through this also, because it's, once you, especially, you listening and stuff, and people listening to the different videos, you really get an understanding of the hunter gatherers, and how much more advanced it is than everybody thinks.
Yeah. For sure.
And then also it helps grasp when we talk about anything in the Americas, because, or chieftains or anything, you start to understand. And also sometimes, like, in people don't want to use king, like a paramount chieftain is what they call, like, the Mississippian,
Oh. Okay.
but it's basically king. You just
Right.
don't. And they say that some people were bigoted and didn't want to make it sound like they're the same, once again, same as us, which is fucking bigoted. Anyways, so
Yeah,
I'm
the
just saying that,
idea, yeah, like the idea that in order to be complex, it has to have some structure that we can recognize as
like
complex.
a state, or like
Right,
a,
yeah.
and then the problem is, if it achieves what we would call a king or a president or whatever, the archaeologists sometimes back then, or different writers, not saying some archaeologists were better, but, and especially now, but I'm talking about not wanting to say that a a humongous like chieftain, like it's like a state. I mean, it's huge, like
Right.
because there's all these other chieftains under it, and they have other little chieftains, and then they have mayors of towns. I mean, it's like this humongous architecture, right? But people didn't want to say, oh well, yeah, that's just a king. So anyways, I have stuff that explains like because they go like, well, it still has clans. Well, yeah, so did they in Europe. I mean, and that didn't stop you from wanting to call the kings,
right,
or whatever. But anyways, I'm just my point is I'm just saying that I really, like I said, wanted to address this before we get into everything, that there's a lot of bias and bigotry of why people have these wrong concepts. And also, it's like I say, it's not even your fault or my fault. It's society that is bigoted and has been supporting, especially just thinking in Canada and me in America, you in Canada, me in America. They want to feel justified and good and ethical with their colonialism. And so a good way of doing that is that, well, we help these people out.
Yeah.
We turned them into farmers and capitalists. We did great.
We didn't destroy their culture. We helped them develop culture.
Yeah. So I'm saying that. So my point is that obviously the bigotry of both of our states would like us to not think they're horrid.
Right.
We personally think they are horrid, but because they are. But
but they don't want to look that way to people in general, right?
Well, because it was just think I remember whenever presidents talk, oh, in America, we've had 200 years of freedom. I'm like, that nothing about that is true.
Yeah, that's right.
Nothing. It's like zero. Even if this whole planet had nothing to do with Native Americans, it's still nothing about that is true. Yeah. That's how horrid America is. It didn't even have to involve any. It was horrid to its own people and anybody inside the territory. I mean, anyways. So, I'm an anarchist. I'm not a state lover. So,
no kidding, eh? Yeah.
Well, like I said, you look at the history of them, and it's not good. So, anyways, we're gonna do the blog, and like I said, we'll do several videos. I don't know. I just want to do this whole thing because people, like it's a Graham Hancock going advanced culture. Well, you mean like complex hunter gatherers?
Right.
I mean, what I feel like it's like they look at stuff and they come up with these theories and they want us to use their words, their concepts, their things, and then deny everything that anyone else has done, that it actually has done the work, done the research.
Yeah.
And, ridiculous. Anyway, so the name of the blog is Rethinking Hunter-Gatherer Conceptions of Simplicity and Grasping How Some Were Complex Hunter/Fisher Gatherers. I would put Fisher in there because people act like hunter is the only thing, but it's really kind of hunter, fisher, and gatherers.
Right. Right. They didn't just hunt. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they've been fishing for like 60,000 years in Africa. There's they fished carp or something. Right. So you get what I'm saying. We've already got an error. The conception that they weren't fishing. There's already an error.
Yeah. You have to include fishing for sure. Because that was pretty fundamental.
Massively. 90% of the Tlingit, I think it is, or the Pacific Northwest peoples got from stuff from the sea.
Right.
90% of So if they didn't have fishing, they would literally be dead.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway.
Yeah, and like when I don't think maybe it's just my own bias, but like when you think the term hunter, you're thinking of somebody hunting game on the land, right? Like
right, exactly.
I guess it wouldn't be game at that point. It's just animals on the land.
Right,
yeah. So yeah, like it's fishing has its own. It deserves its own mention.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. Like I said, especially since it was such a heavy survival strategy to use that.
Yeah.
You can't like. But I'm just saying, so the concept, I'm just going back to the concept. The concept already is flawed because we don't think Fisher.
Yeah.
And also that we genderize them, and not that some groups didn't, but not all groups did.
Right.
So once again, And then also gender comes in. Some groups were totally okay, which we're going to read in here, totally okay with people being trans or people being, something, gay or whatever. Anyways, so because that's the other thing. I feel like that everybody comes with all these biases.
Yeah.
Like everybody's got to be a heterosexual, and it has to pick only one gender, or just all kinds of things that I don't know. You don't know history because that's not accurate.
Yeah, for sure. We come in with a lot of the stuff that's, I mean, we live in our own culture, right? Like, so obviously whatever that culture told us is the truth for our whole lives, that's what we believe until we question it. And even then, some of it's still in there, right?
Yeah, definitely. That's what I'm just saying. I know the biggest problem about this whole subject and why I think it's so big, actually, without realizing it in pseudoarchaeology, because even if they're not addressing it, they're relating. Every time they say advanced, I just go, you don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like what do you even mean by that, right?
So anyways, let's look real quick at the first picture.
Okay.
And as we notice, it says prehistoric Egypt, the Nile area. Everyone always talks about Egypt, right? Well, this is from 40,000 to 30,000 years ago.
Okay.
Egypt. So, and if we look over here, we have a burial of this man, one single man, with all these items. Now, that right there tells me, if I were to see that, say, any other time, I would think chieftain.
Right.
Yeah,
certainly an elite or a leader of some kind, right? Yeah.
No, my point is about simplistic, right? About this bullshit concept that they have. So like, yeah. So here's an African, because 30,000 years ago, so it could be this time, there's some mixing from people from the north, from Siberia. They come back down, and then they end up making a big impact. I don't know if that's, I think this is pre that. I know 40,000 years certainly is, because they only get down to North Africa 30,000 years ago. But they bring like a totemistic shamanism and start changing stuff in Africa, both genetically and culturally. They get the rock arts all related to them coming back from Europe. Anyways, but my point is this is I think a little bit before that. And so the fact that it has all this complexity, if you look at the picture, so it shows here there's these big looking like knife things or whatever. Those are sickle blades. So that's for processing, I don't know, grains.
Yeah.
Right? Like what, agriculture? 35,000? I'm not saying it's agriculture. I'm just saying complex hunter-gatherers.
Yeah.
Right? So we have a chieftain in Africa that's 35,000 years old, and he's got all these sickle blades, these little tiny ones. I don't know, maybe other little, I don't know exactly, but it's probably processing meat, I would think. But then he's probably got grains and meat, and these big stone tools are for hunting, game, like you said. But then that stone thing with that little round thing in the middle, that's a mortar and pestle.
I was just gonna say, that's for grinding shit.
Ago, okay. for processing grains to make them into a paste or flour they could eat. So they've been eating pita bread for a long time. Anyways. My point is, so the conception of, you would look at that and you would assume, oh, they may be agriculture, but they're not. But that's what I'm saying is that these people that talk about, what an advanced culture, how many things does he look at? Has he looked at this? Does he know that 35,000 years ago there's what looks like a chieftain in Africa or in Egypt, and it's buried with things that look like agriculture? Yeah, anyways, so just to, get the conception that we already need to change. Then if you notice the other picture in red, see where it's in red?
Yep.
That culture is 42,000 to 18,000, right?
Right.
That white box with those stone tools and weird looking long things?
Yep.
Those are generally for fishing, the bottom ones.
Okay.
Like looks like almost a fishing hook.
Right.
So the point
cool.
is, so once again, I was mentioning fishing before. So once again, this is a hunter-fisher complex, right? Complex hunter-fisher gatherer. So anyways, I'm just saying that we haven't even got out of Africa. Oh shit,
Right.
Graham Hancock's talking about how wonderful Europe is, Oh yeah, we haven't even got out of Africa here, and I thought these people that care about pyramids and stuff care about Egypt, but I think they just care about pyramids, not Egypt. Or actually, I think they just care about conspiracy theories, really, not even pyramids.
Yeah, that's right.
Because what's mysterious about pyramids? Fucking nothing. That is what's mysterious about it.
Right.
Literally nothing. They know so fucking much about pyramids. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that some people haven't read about it or watched the right things on it doesn't mean that it isn't known, right? Like,
yeah, they'll go and find people that say it's not known. Have you asked archaeologists that? I mean,
right.
I don't know. Maybe you could listen to someone if they're talking reason, and then ask what are their sources or what are their ideas. It can't be just, well, I think this or that. Like one of the pseudoarchaeology thing is, well, I can't imagine doing that. Can you? Like, who cares if we can imagine? Dumb fuck. Yes, you're right. I could not imagine that 35,000 years ago they were processing grain with sickles and with mortar and pestle. Blew me away. I saw that and went, holy fuck.
It's becoming more and more apparent that a lot of people don't have a great imagination.
Yeah. Guess what? People are smart. If you think you're smart, right?
Yeah.
Other people were also smart. People haven't really changed for 50,000 years at least.
The brain hasn't evolved that much in that time.
So yeah, I mean, you're not. In fact, our brains actually are getting a little smaller. Really, about 10,000 years ago is like the high point, and then they've been kind of decreasing since then. I think because modern world, we don't have to be as smart as the hunter gatherers, right?
Yeah,
because we can just go down to Kmart or whatever grocery store and buy things, or we don't have to make it out of wood and and make it out of leather, or to go hunt ourselves, fish ourselves, or whatever, plant gardens or whatever.
Right.
Anyway, another thing about gardens, people always act like the only kind of garden has to be one where you toil the soil. No, there's plenty of areas in the world where it's so foliage rich, whatever soil. If you just threw a handful of seeds, something's going to grow.
Right. Yeah.
It's
not all. It's not all. There's a lot of good ground. It's not
like Pacific Northwest has in Seattle. The rain and the ground is so moist and wet. You throw seeds there, they're going to grow. Especially got shade cover from trees. Yeah.
Saskatchewan in the 80s during the drought. It's not everybody's like that.
No, well, yeah, exactly. Well, and I think that's also too, is it like people are trying to, and often do, use their own reference and think, oh, that means that everything is the same, and that's wrong.
Just not true. Yeah.
Yeah. No. All right. So go ahead and the first two things. The first thing is my blog that I explain Egypt because people don't know, and as you see, it says. Prehistoric Egypt 40,000 years ago to the first dynasty, which is 5,150 years ago.
Right.
And so that's a blog that people can go check out if you really care to know more about Egypt, like all of it, instead of being like these weirdos that just look at one thing and go, oh, I don't imagine how that can do that,
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to show how ridiculous it is to me. Like when they say stuff, I'm like,
yeah,
how do they do this? And I don't think that's possible. Like, it doesn't really matter what you think. You could be fucking, unless you got evidence to back it up.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, go ahead and read. So, Anthropology of Hunter-Gatherers, Key Themes for Archaeologists. So, we're going to learn about it from not some idiots, but an actual thing that's for academics, for academics.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So we can get the not, pseudoscience version.
Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah, right on. So this is by Vicky Cummings. It says, certainly there are very few people on Earth today who make a living solely by hunting and gathering. Although there are many people whose ancestors did, Native Americans or First Nations in North America, Aboriginal communities in Australia, and a variety of other peoples in Africa, South America, Asia, and Europe. However, only 500 years ago, 1/3 of the world had native hunter-gatherer populations. Many of these peoples were first encountered by Europeans as part of colonial expansion, and these early encounters were hugely variable. However, the study of people, anthropology, has only existed as a distinct discipline since the 19th century, coming of age along with archaeology in the early 20th century. Thus, the study of hunting and gathering populations by anthropologists has taken place within a more recent historical and cultural context. Specifically, scholars have only been visiting hunter-gatherers and writing about them in any detail within the last 100 years or so. Many of the earliest accounts were themselves set within very specific agendas relating to the justification of colonialism. The vast majority of accounts of living hunter-gatherer populations have been created in the last 100 years and within a particular historical context, that of the colonial or post-colonial era. By this point, these groups had already undergone radical changes. The term modern hunter-gatherer, then, primarily relates to those groups who have been practicing some form of hunting and gathering and who have been written about by anthropologists in the last 100 or so years. Moreover, we have access to accounts of recent hunter-gatherers, through other means, primarily historical accounts, and other surviving evidence such as photographs, structures, and material culture. Here are also a number of surviving peoples who no longer practice hunting and gathering, but retain knowledge of this lifestyle and/or related beliefs. Some of the earliest antiquarian accounts of prehistory often used newly encountered peoples in the New World as comparisons for past peoples. The 19th century saw an increased interest in the past and the beginnings of the development of archaeology as a distinct academic discipline. And from the 1860s onwards, this included a growing use of ethnographic accounts. In particular, comparisons were made between modern societies, who were not as technologically advanced as the Western European world, and ancient societies. Inspired by Darwinian evolution, it was suggested that human societies went through a series of developments from simple to complex. His theory was strengthened by the creation of the three-age system, introduced into Europe in the 19th century. Archaeologists began to interpret the development of societies as unilinear. This meant that they thought people got progressively more advanced, technologically, economically, and socially, and that once a certain stage of development was achieved, they would not revert to earlier technologies or economies.
Pause for 1 second. So there's two things in that. I think that like complex and stuff can have a just like shamanism. I mean, it's a very broad word for some sort of a religious practitioner that relates to the doing certain, types of things, especially healing and whatever, soul travel and whatever.
Right.
But anyways, but the term, just like, I mean, we've talked before. I use these terms somewhat colloquially so people understand. The concepts I talk about are already so freaking complex.
Yeah.
And hard that I want to make it relatable. So I do think that saying complex hunter-gatherers is actually not a bad thing. But I think that what the problem is not actually that, or even hunter-gatherers in general. I think it's the bigotry that they couldn't do things that really needs to be destroyed, as we talked about already.
Yeah, a variety of assumptions that are made based on that idea, right?
Right. So I don't think that the categories in itself are have to be, I feel, be removed. It's just the bigotry around why or what they mean, changes.
Fair. Yeah.
So.
Archaeologists were therefore able to arrange modern cultures from the simplest to the most complex, the simplest being extant hunter-gatherers and the most complex being Western Europeans. By doing so, 19th century archaeologists also illustrated the stages through which cultures had developed in prehistoric times. In fact, archaeologists at this time began to rely more on ethnographic analogies than on the archaeological data. Excuse me. This attitude tied in with broader
Do
political
you know what
agendas.
ethnography is?
Yeah, that's like like when you spend time with the people and learn about the culture by being with them.
Right, which is there's in a sense there's like two types of scientific ways of investigating groups, like a social thing. Because I learned this when I did psychology and sociology, even though I didn't do anthropology or archaeology. It's still similar. It's just because it's just a group. The difference in anthropology is it's a group that has, ties to other things, culturally in the past, probably, know. But the studying a group is the same. So there's like two main things. One is you actively ask questions. That's a different kind, but they don't feel that's as good always, or it's better to get both. Like the other kind is you ask nothing. You just live.
Right.
You never ask like anything except, what do I need to do or whatever. But you're living, like you said, like those are the people that go like 7 years or something. And like experience, dress like it, look like it, everything. Because the other kind doesn't really do that.
Right.
The other kind goes in generally not,
It's kind of like the outsider versus trying to be an insider kind of thing.
Right. So I'm just saying those are two scientific approaches to doing things. And as why they should have in a sense too is because they both can be biased. Living in it sometimes puts you in a bubble. You don't see what's happening from the outside perspective. Yeah. And then only having the outside perspective, you miss what it's like to be on the inside perspective. And I totally know this because of being a truck driver, drove all over the country. I've been into I think 3 or 4 provinces of Canada, and I've been to 49 or 40, 48 states, 49, I think 48. Okay. Yeah, 48 states.
Just about all of them.
Yeah. So, a shitload. My point is, but then I've lived places that I thought, oh, that's a nice place. And I lived there and the people are different because obviously in a truck stop, I'm dealing with people that are trying to make me come back to that truck stop to spend more money.
That's right.
So they're going to treat me in a way or be different. And also those people probably get a lot of different people with different perspectives. So they're not as bigoted or not always. Right. My point is they have an opportunity to be less bigoted because they get more experience.
Yeah.
Just like, me traveling all these different states and stuff in Canada. I got a different experience. Going to Canada was a good experience compared to living in the United States.
Right.
But I never lived in Canada. So that's different. Visiting for like 2 weeks is different than living there.
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
So there's a whole bunch of different perspectives. I'm just saying, so people sometimes think, oh, the archaeologists aren't scientific. We already talked about this before, which is stupid. Archaeology is scientific. Right. All kinds of different sciences. What the hell are you talking about?
Well, and like I once did an interview with an anthropologist who's like, he did an ethnography over in, I think it was in Africa with some, I can't remember which group it was, but they were practicing female circumcision or female genital mutilation, as we call it. And so he had a unique insight into that because he spent time in that culture, right? But then when you also talk about it, like he also had a very biased perspective in a sense from being in that culture and spending the time in.
Speaking of which, I personally think somewhere around, I don't know, I'll say from 10,000 to 5,000 because I don't know. Sometime at that time, I think that started.
Oh, okay.
From 10,000 to 5,000 in Africa. Everywhere else, well, let's say everywhere touching or near Africa, I think is really from Africa. Like the Jews, since, or the Hebrews, whatever, had it, and that's from Africa. That I think they got it because of Egypt.
Okay.
Egypt has art of it 5,000 years ago, I think it is 5,100. Anyways, something like that. But it's so I'm talking about circumcision. So that concept, and it was actually had to do with male and female in a sense, because what it is in a sense in the concept was I've heard is that cutting the clitoris off was removing the penis of a woman, making her a full woman, making her a full woman. And that the foreskin of a man was cut off because that drapey was like the woman's hole, in a sense. If you look at the front of it or something, it just looks like a skin hole. It doesn't look like a penis. And so, they take that woman part off the man. Now, I'm not saying I agree with this.
Right. It's the perspective that those people had when they did it, kind of thing.
Right. And so I'm saying the Jews think that God gave it to them. No, actually, Africa did, probably because of the Egyptians that you hate so much.
Right. Yeah.
Because here's another thing that this one person tried to argue with me, and I go, there isn't any Semitic groups, really, but almost the Jews that even practice circumcisions. They didn't do it in Assyria, the Babylonians.
Right.
It wasn't done by the Sumerians. So wrong. Oh, Saudi Arabia, Canaan, where Israel, Palestine. Oh, yeah, Lebanon, maybe even. Yeah, those areas that touch Jordan or whatever, that touch almost towards Africa, and influence in a sense from Egypt, then they all had it. So it's not like some special thing that God gave, Sorry.
As with all things, from a materialist perspective, there's a cause and an effect, and it came from somewhere, and it traveled to the places that it came.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it wasn't handed down from God. So.
Well, right, because it's just like, this is what's interesting. People don't get. Like sometimes, in other words, two places can have similar things, right? And so they go, aha. But that doesn't mean that every single piece came over like in one wave. Like, you're like all of a sudden there's nothing. And then capitalists show up with a mall and just start, selling the shit out of stuff.
Right.
No, that's not like how shit happened. So sometimes, like I'm saying here, circumcision left Africa. A lot of ideas went into Africa.
Right.
But this is absolutely an idea that went out of Africa. And that's what I'm trying to say, is just because two things doesn't mean it's the same.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of influence actually from Canaan, really south, or that, area south, especially earlier, like 6,000 to 5,000, that there was ideas coming down. But anyways, then all of a sudden Egypt gets bigger and then ideas go back out. So
yeah, in regards to circumcision, I'm not entirely sure of like how the process changes for male circumcision, but I know there's different processes and different ideas of how it's done for female circumcision in various regions too, right? Like that all developed
sometimes they remove the lips and the clitoris. Sometimes they
and
sew them up. They say sew women up and stuff. I mean, like totally.
And apparently in some places it's like very little difference. Like they basically just do a little slit and that's it, right? And like, so.
Yeah, I'm against all that. Especially, this is the thing. If they're an adult and they want that,
yes,
more power to them.
Do what you want. Yeah, that's right.
If it's a child and you're doing it against its will, fuck no.
Yeah.
No.
Consent is the key to that one. That's for sure.
Everyone owns themselves. It's just a child does. You don't own them.
Yep, exactly.
You are their caretaker. You are not like their owner. And once again, I know it's my anarchist. I just own things.
Yeah, that's right. You don't get to own people. You don't get to make decisions.
I own my wife. I don't know what's wrong with people. All right, speaking though, let's go back to reading more of the stuff.
Yeah, so where was I? By doing so, 19th century archaeologists also illustrated the stages through which cultures had developed in prehistoric times. In fact, archaeologists at this time began to rely more on ethnographic analogies than on the archaeological data. This attitude tied in with broader political agendas, particularly colonialism and the widespread annihilation or assimilation of native populations throughout much of the New World. These ideas were rejected at the start of the 20th century as part of the new cultural historical approach, which sought to understand past peoples not through analogy, but by studying sets of material culture. The culture historical approach is exemplified by the work of Gordon Childe from the 1920s onward, who sought to identify past archaeological cultures through object assemblages. This approach was enormously influential, but culture history was increasingly criticized from the mid-20th century on, and it is this period which is crucial in the story of ethnographic analogy. First, the 1950s saw important work from an ecological perspective. Of particular note is Julian Stewart's notion of cultural ecology, but an interest in the environment was also being explored elsewhere. Secondly, this work in turn inspired the development of the new archaeology, or processual archaeology, in the 1960s, which remains significant in many parts of the world today. Thirdly, as part of his ethnoarchaeology was increasingly employed as a way of understanding the past. Finally, the study of hunter-gatherers really emerged as a subdiscipline in the 1960s. Processualism developed in the 1960s in America as a backlash against the descriptive archaeologies being written from a culture historical perspective, while drawing on the new cultural ecology. Binford, 1962, suggested that the aims of archaeology should be the same as those of anthropology, namely to study the behavior and the social and cultural development of humans. Indeed, this overall claim was for archaeologists to elicit a series of generalizations from the ethnographic record that could then be applied cross-culturally. The ethnoarchaeology of hunter-gatherers in the 1960s and 1970s was important and shaped the discipline as we know it today. However, criticisms of the new archaeology began to emerge in the early 1980s. One of the major criticisms of processualism was the widespread use of ethnographic analogy in understanding the past. It was argued that this involved forcing the archaeological data to fit the ethnographic record, which had been noted as a potential problem back in the 1960s. This did not fit into the call for contextually specific and historically situated archaeological narratives. The new post-processual approach also criticized the search for general laws and the notion that these generalizations could be applied cross-culturally. Post-processual archaeologists also did not like the idea that people simply responded to environmental stimuli like mindless automatons, or environmental determinism. Hodder and others called instead for more detailed studies of material culture as the way forward in interpreting the archaeological record. Human action was meaningfully constituted, they argued, and they also suggested a focus on areas beyond the economy and the environment. They suggested that there were other areas of people's lives which were interesting to explore and discuss, such as what people thought about the world, belief systems and ideologies, the meaning of material culture beyond the fact that it helped people survive in an environment, the symbolic use of space and the landscape.
Yeah, so I do think it's important that that archaeology and science educators explain what things are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that sometimes it like in I feel dishonestly or just ignorantly, people put two things together. Like, let's say that people can have an opinion about shamanism that's bigoted.
Right.
Or whatever. And then I have a different opinion. And yet we're both using the word.
Right. Therefore, you're bigoted because you use the word shamanism or what.
Right. So I think just in other words, like, so I think like that some of these people that like, the Graham Hancocks, they want to try to find something wrong with archaeology. So if archaeology says something like hunter-gatherers or whatever, they'll try to, and make it something that it's not, or, like there's a meme that you might get to that we're going to read, where archaeologists were talking to this guy that's constantly pushing out pseudoarchaeology, Jimmy something.
Okay.
I don't know. Anyway, he's got like 2 million followers on YouTube.
Oh no.
But he just constantly just talks nonsense. And he's like, look at Göbekli Tepe, that can't be hunter-gatherers, or like, the historians or archaeologists are trying to, or some academics, or I don't remember now what he said, but are trying to get us to believe that this was built by hunter-gatherers. Look at those pillars. Look at Who they can do art. I mean, what the fuck?
Why do the least honest people always have such big audiences? It's so annoying.
Right? Like I told you before, and I like to toot my own horn because I got a big ego, but I don't know why I got more, man. I feel like my stuff is always right on point with the information and
Right.
thought out, and
I don't even mind not having a big audience, but I do mind the liars having a big audience.
Right. Well, here's my point: is look how much we explain. If they really want to understand pyramids, we're going to get to that eventually and talk all about that.
Right.
Mounds and pyramids and everything. Yeah, we're gonna. But even that won't get that much exposure because they want to hear like conspiracy theories or
gotta be
something.
Mysterious and magical and all that.
Oh yeah. The magic is true. Yeah. True. All right, well, keep reading.
Okay. So it says, I, Damien, was wondering if the indigenous people of the Pacific Northwest pre-contact made clam farms 3,500 years ago and another aquaculture. Is that not like agriculture, which is seen as not hunter-gatherers anymore? Or not only just even complex hunter-gatherers, but somewhat mixed with something like agriculture-like and yet heavily hunter-gatherers? Why not both? Why do we have to force a choice of limiting it to one or the other way rather than letting the actual cultures guide us to what they fit? If they fit a little of both, then why not both? And it says, an archaeologist responded, this is actually a really interesting theoretical question/concept. Often the argument is about the level of management/maintenance that goes into the food resource that separates hunter-gatherers and agriculturalists. In my opinion, it's one of those things that don't have a strict distinction. Thanks for asking and seeking information about the past. That was from Jeffrey J.T. Lewis, or at JT Lewis_arc, southeastern archaeologist, MA, RPA, Ph.D. grad student at OU. Categorization often causes more problems than it started with. Really, these things are a matter of degree. Even in medieval and modern societies, there are hunters and gatherers, only with restriction on who can do these things. Land access. Similarly, there are degrees of aquaculture, or fish traps, temporary containment ponds in rivers, more permanent structures at all different sizes. All of these have been used and continue to be alongside nets and line fishing.
That's right, and he's talking about with hunter-gatherers. So all these like complex things are happening with hunter-gatherers. And going back to, like I said, which people don't mention fishing, which he mentioned like only fishing, how but that's in land use and stuff. Then that's, I think, because like the Tlinket, just to throw out real quick, because we're going to talk about them. I think it's Tlinket or whatever, but like it pronounced with L or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
There's going to be sorry people. Me and Corey are going to do a shameful job at saying names.
Yeah.
This show tries for a lot of history stuff, but the names. So
they present issues.
Give us in advance that when we say native names, oh yeah, it's gonna be bad. But anyways, so the Tlingit would actually have hereditary rights, like a clan family, to a portion of the river.
Okay.
And then they can fish there.
Oh.
Only that clan, period. Like you can get probably killed if you try to fish there. So they're about land use. This goes back to, like I told you, I think, some of the capitalist ideas came about 7,000 years ago and spread a lot all over the place. And, probably got to the Americas as well, or certainly that idea, if not that way, that it could have been birthed in wealth culture, like in the Pacific Northwest, all on its own.
Right.
So either it came in or it's all on its own. It really doesn't matter to me. I don't have a shell in the game except wanting to know what the truth is. especially like I told you in general, as an anarchist, I like to understand how we get from like everyone's equal to fucking hierarchy and leaders and fucking people that are chieftains and all that. It really interests me how that exactly happened. I don't like, I like a gritty, every detail approach because I want to understand.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to do in this is we're going to talk about chieftains. Then we're going to have another video, maybe one or two about chieftains and all about that and how and then paramount chieftains and stuff. And maybe we'll do 2 or 3 videos on that because all this stuff's real important because mound building. So go and remember that book that you were supposed to read.
Yep.
And then also we're going to Americas. We're going to talk to a person who does Southeast mound builds and stuff, or research.
Okay.
Anyways, but the mound cultures, almost every single one of them were a chieftain. From the 2,000, say 500 down for sure.
It's interesting.
All chieftains. So the mound building and the chieftain goes together.
Interesting.
So which if you think about it, to build a big mound requires that somebody to force a bunch of people to do something.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. You've got your upper echelon making the lower echelon.
Right.
The workers do the work.
I put it, like I said, as an anarchist, understanding how cultures, did power exactly, not to strawman them, but to really understand them.
Yeah.
And I think that not enough is done to understand the Americas.
Right.
I feel like that there's just really been, a lack, and I feel like, hey, as an anarchist, we care about everybody and we want to understand all the cultures. So that, we can understand how power rises and how inequality happened. And, I find that to be very interesting.
Yeah. And there's bound to be like a lesson in there too, right? Like as to how to like help, deal with that inequality, and maybe we can learn, the lessons from the past are always very useful.
Yeah, definitely. All right.
Okay, so then there's another one. I heard a wonderful presentation this morning by Lynn Gamble, an archaeologist at UCSB, who has been doing research for 14 years at sites on the Channel Islands off Santa Barbara.
That's in California, by the way.
She's found evidence for hunter-gatherer social complexity based on the use of red abalone at 6,000 to 5,000 years ago. Hunters and gatherers can do amazing things. That's from John Hoops at KU Hoops. John's principal training is in archaeology, and his interests include pre-Columbian cultures of Mesoamerica, the Columbian area, the Pan-Caribbean area, Northern South America, and the Central Andes. John's current research interests include interpretations of pre-Columbian art and iconography, shamanism, and popular perceptions of archaeology as manifest in pseudoarchaeology, pseudoscience, and mythology in contemporary culture.
Try
refresh the page, maybe?
Yeah.
Yep, there it is.
Okay. I was like, what?
Yeah. I must have clicked the link earlier and then you added something after.
I added stuff because I realized that literally I've been working on this for like almost a month.
Right.
I did like 5 or 6 pieces of art for this blog. This thing is huge, but I really explain stuff and I show the cultures and
Right.
And in the Americas, which like I said, most people don't know about. And I show how they're connected and related and anyways, language and religion and culture and power structures. Anyways, so I had read all that, like I said, for weeks. But then just recently, I seen some that pseudoarchaeology person has posted some nonsense about hunter-gatherers at Göbekli Tepe.
Ah, okay.
So I thought I need to add this because this perfectly is, because in other words, I think it's important to learn this stuff.
Right.
But here's a good example of why it is good for everyone to learn this stuff.
Yeah.
Look at this freaking idiot right here with his 2 million followers.
Out here spreading misinformation. Yeah.
Right. So to get my point is how great that. So I added it because I felt like it's literally happened today. And, I've been working on this blog forever.
Right.
And I feel it's important. And this backs that. It's currently important.
For sure. So then I guess the next one is complex hunter-gatherer is an interesting topic. Pseudoarchaeology lovers don't find hunter-gatherers interesting. It used to happen to me as well when I believed in this stuff. Now I think hunter-gatherers were awesome, even though the European Neolithic farmers are probably my favorite ancient group. It's important to share hunter-gatherers' knowledge. You never know who can eventually see things differently. Jimmy, a few days ago, was laughing at the possibility that HGs built Göbekli Tepe.
That's hunter-gatherers.
Yeah. No evidence of farming so far, but these guys are never happy. Even if you tell them, okay, let's assume they were already farming, it's still not enough. For Hancock, the Neolithic farmers who built the temples in Malta were also unsophisticated. So he does not want to credit them. That's from Ancient Puzzles at Ancient Puzzles.
And then I responded.
Yeah, Damien's response, yes, I think people disregard the evidence showing how amazing hunter-gatherers could be. So then we've got an image of John Hoop's tweet. This guy doesn't seem to know that a drawing of Göbekli Tepe was featured on the cover of Hancock's 2015 book, Magicians of the Gods, or that the site had been receiving international attention for a decade before that book had even been published. 5% is actually a lot. And it's a quote tweet of Jimmy Corsetti at Bright Insight 6. Okay. Anyone recall when Graham Hancock brought Göbekli Tepe international attention on Joe Rogan's podcast in 2017? Well, it was 5% then, and it's still 5% now. And when you learn the reason why, as will be shared in my next video tonight or tomorrow, you'll be legit disturbed.
Isn't it ridiculous? Like I said, this idiot, and he's got all these followers, just says nonsense.
Yeah.
And then look at another person, probably a follower of him, supports him. He's like, yeah, definitely not hunter-gatherers.
Definitely not built by hunter-gatherers. To which John Hoop says, there's no evidence there for agriculture. Hunters and gatherers can do amazing things. So, and then we've got another tweet from John Hoops. He's quote tweeting Jimmy Corsetti again. Argument from incredulity is a common logical fallacy. This guy uses it a lot. And Jimmy Corsetti's tweet says, archaeologists would have us believe Göbekli Tepe was created by primitive hunters and gatherers. Yet it consisted of 200 sophisticated T-pillars that weigh 22,000 pounds each.
Right. So, but do you see how he used the word? Archaeologists don't use the word primitive.
Right. Yeah.
He did. And I was just saying once again. So I told you, I think that Graham Hancock is not a racist. That Jimmy Corsetti may not also be not a racist. But it doesn't mean that either of them are not pushing bigoted ideas. Primitive. Who the fuck said it? And why do you assume that all hunter-gatherers are primitive?
Yeah, that's right.
Fucking dumbass.
So then,
did he not? Don't you think that? I mean, just the first picture, right? Just the 35,000-year-old person in Africa.
Oh
with the sickle blades and that mortar and pestle. Throw simple out the door.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Or primitive or whatever.
Forget. Yeah, I don't like you say, like using the word primitive almost always seems to imply something like lesser than, and like, and so it's not a good term generally anyway, but
you see what I'm saying?
In the hands of these guys,
like this that's the mentality they have. That's why I said we need to really do this blog justice before we talk about the Americas, because if you don't grasp this, everything else will seem weird. When you grasp this, that they were complex. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, so keep going.
Sure. So we've got at Kurt Carbonell, pseudoarchs. Archaeologists say a hunter-gatherer society could never have accomplished ... Now, archaeologists, no, we don't. And pseudo-archaeologists, ancient Egyptians could never have accomplished ... And archaeologists say, yes, they did, could have, and they did.
Don't you see like the problem? These people just fucking say dumb shit.
Yeah.
And literally that's not, and they go, archaeologists feel that. Hey, archaeologists don't feel that way.
Yeah.
Dumbass. And
then
yet some
John...
reason so it's not that I'm somehow like, in love with archaeologists, but it's because there is an anti-science movement against archaeology. And since this relates to something I know and talk and read and stuff, and do videos on, it matters to me.
Yeah.
It's just like if they were saying this to Neil deGrasse Tyson or something, as other person's science people know, some scientist I'm talking about, and it was all of a sudden people say his science isn't valid or whatever. He's not a scientist. He's just because he does theoretical physics or something. That's not real physics, and because it's theoretical or anyways, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. People who don't understand the field declaring that it's not useful or whatever.
Right. And so a person that cares about the truth and cares about science does not like to hear fucking morons with millions of followers getting away with saying scientists are dumb fucks. Yeah. Or somehow don't know anything or say things they don't. Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
We've got another one from John Hoops on Twitter. Archaeologists say a hunter-gatherer society could never have accomplished ... And then a classic example of a straw man argument. Name it and call it out whenever you see it. It's a common logical fallacy that everyone should be able to recognize.
Yeah.
And then Bill Farley at Archaeology Game.
Yes.
Says it's incredible how easy it is to get under this guy's skin. He means me, like this is basically just me, a fourth-rate archaeologist who got my Ph.D. at a state university and teaches at a school with a direction in its name. Guy has 2 million YouTube subs. So he's talking about Jimmy again, right?
Correct.
So Jimmy, he quote tweeted, virtually the entire archaeological community owes me an apology. I recently shared that 90%
Hold on just a second right there. Can you believe him and Graham Hancock?
The ego, right?
Is it not? It's like offensive, right? You get It's not just me. They actually are acting like assholes.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
I recently
like fucking bad.
Ridiculous. Yeah. No, he says, I recently shared that a 90% of Göbekli Tepe has not been excavated despite 29 years of excavation. They went berserk, claiming I was wrong, that surely more had been done. False, only 5% has been excavated. July 2023 update by Göbekli Tepe guide Merv Ofluoglu confirms it's even worse than I had suggested. How could these archaeologists with PhDs get something so easily verifiable wrong? Why is it the YouTubers leading the charge in attaining answers at the world's oldest archaeological site? This is just another example of what's wrong with the field of archaeology today.
If it offends me, I know I'm not even an archaeologist. It's just like these are scientists, and this shit is as offensive to me as a fucking snake oil salesman or a fucking religious fanatic fucking spewing bullshit.
Yeah.
In harming, like people getting people to hate gays because God hates fags or something.
Right.
The Westboro Baptist Church, I counter protested them in West Hollywood.
Right.
Fuck yeah, I held a fucking sign. It says God is the hate called love, and hate is a sin called God.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't like me. They actually
called
the police on me. Yeah, they fucking called the police on me. I mean, you fucking believe that? They're like, they have the freedom, they think.
I absolutely believe they would call the police. That's exactly who they are.
Dude, they did.
Yeah,
I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
These fuckers come. I was at the time, I was living in California. I'm like, I'm fucking from here. You're from fucking Kansas, and you're calling the police on me? The fuck?
Yeah, of course. It's It's the fragility of the bigot, right?
Oh,
They cannot handle counter to their beliefs.
yeah.
They
I
have
took
to.
pictures with drag queens. I almost thought about kissing one, but I thought it's not me. But I almost feel like, not that just people know, and not like being a bigot. It's not me. But I was willing to do it just for the picture in front of the Westboro Baptist Church, because just fuck them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But I did hug a drag queen and stuff. So I have pictures of it, and it had two guys kissing, and I was under them holding a sign.
Nice.
But yeah, I fucking hate those fuckers. Anyways, but so the cops actually said that because I doesn't do anything, that I have a right to be there just like they do.
Yep, of course.
So they got fucking pissed. Anyways, yeah, bigots.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. My point is, I have actively fought people that are fucking, terrorizing fucking science or fucking humanity, or or LGBTQ people or indigenous people or whatever the fuck. It needs to be fucking called out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what I'm saying. That it's not. I have no skin in the game as an archaeologist or anything, but hearing them say shit, and I know archaeologists like fucking piss and no history and shit, like it's fucking irritating, like bad.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So Bill Farley, at Archaeology Game, replied to his quote. He says, "Is this bragging? Kind of, I guess, but also no. It's pointing out that these guys are so massively insecure in their whole shtick. It's incredibly easy to put them on tilt. You just have to call them out when they're lying. They are also used to brazenly lying about anything and everything on any day of the week, and they surround themselves in a bubble of parasocial followers who just tell them what they want to hear and tweet what they want. Tweet what they say to tweet. He's pissed because the site interpretation isn't what he wants. That's why they whine about hunter-gatherers so much. He can't dispute the findings or the interpretations, so he can just imply for all eternity his proof is in the next shovelful, God of the gaps, etc." And once again, technically, I do get paid to do criticism of pseudoscience because it's part of my job, sort of. That's not grifting. I'm a scientist and an academic. It's my job to think about and write stuff, especially science. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be like if somebody said that this is a grift because we're trying to debunk, liars, right?
Oh, I'm sure that there's someone probably will.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, probably.
Well, because they'll say I'm against Graham Hancock and I'm against, Jimmy Coletti, whatever his name is. Yeah. When you say fucking dumb shit that's terrible and anti-science and fucking attacks fucking scientists, it's
part of my job as a person who cares about the truth.
Well, because I feel like that I do, or I try to do, or we try to do, is just teach the plain facts. Yes, I do sometimes give my comments and stuff, but I'm trying to teach the plain fact. I'm not hiding anything. I'm not doing anything that favors me,
Yeah. Yeah, like you say, like you're not even this. We don't even do this. You don't get paid for this. So
no,
it's
nothing.
like
I don't have a patron or anything. So I'm getting zero to do this. I'm doing this because I feel like there is a need, and also I feel like there needs to be a leftist and anarchist perspective because there's not enough anarchist perspective. I don't feel
right,
especially
as progressive as the archaeologists we've met have been. They're still not necessarily anarchists and like far leftists.
I have,
right?
I have met one or two, actual anarchists that are, anthropologists or archaeologists.
I could see that.
but yeah, a lot of them are progressive. I mean, especially compared to the general public. Oh hell yes,
yeah,
way more progressive. That's why it's like I said, it's even more offensive when they say shit about him. They like, who are you talking about? Stuff from the fucking 50s, the 30s.
Right.
Like the people now are way the fuck different, man. Like they support gay rights usually and everything, and they support indigenous rights. Like, yeah, they're pretty progressive. Like, I don't know who you're talking about, but
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not saying that there still can't be people that are bigoted, sexist, homophobic, everything. Because
Sure.
it's fucking,
Yeah.
but I'm not. I'm just saying, not in my experience, but I know that is. I know it's possible. So I'm not trying to be ridiculous. So, like I said, but I do think that looking at the what I know, it's relatively good. So, and then hearing this shit, it's like, fucking irritating as fuck.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So then we've got, to Damien's understanding, all plant evidence at Göbekli Tepe was not domesticated plants, and it was not fully agricultural. So complex hunter-gatherers seems like a good term to explain the builders of Göbekli Tepe. This was so until around the time of Çatalhöyük, around 9,000 years ago, who likely had some of the earliest domesticated plants related to agriculture. And here, there's some blog posts for Göbekli Tepe and Çatalhöyük. Which
go ahead and read them.
So it's Göbekli Tepe, first temple, early paganism themes, sky burial, skull cult, T-pillar site similarities, obsidian trade, agricultural revolution, and megalith cultures.
This kind of like that blog explains kind of all that, how it relates to Göbekli Tepe.
Okay. And then Çatalhöyük, first religious design city around 9,500 to 7,700 years ago in Turkey. And then he says Çatalhöyük was not only the first religious design city, but it was also a city of equality where women and men held equal status.
Yeah.
And then we're on the quick
I don't
understanding.
think they're getting that in Turkey now.
No, that's true. Yeah.
No. Now, isn't that sad? So traditions, like they always think, oh, I was traditional, Well, traditional in Turkey, women were equal.
Right. Yeah.
Just saying. Yeah. So this goes back to people think like, oh, primitive hunter-gatherers, or people that just became agriculturists, that somehow they immediately did it. Massive inequality. Yes, inequality happened. It was a little bit later, not 9,000. Like not when they first domesticated. It's kind of like after it sinks in. But also, like I told you before, there's a climate change event, the 8,200 event, where the climate got real cold and whatever again, and everybody's stuff like died, and that caused a lot of problems. And that right after that too, remember 7,000 years ago, violent, in a sense, male paternal clans take over, because before that it's mainly maternal. Like even people don't understand, people that are Jewish, someone is an actual Jew in a sense, genetically to or related to culture, but is by the mother only. So if the father goes and has sex with whoever, that doesn't mean anything. None of those are Jewish in a sense. I'm just saying, and I don't agree with it. That's nonsense. Your kids, like, what the fuck? Yeah. But I'm an anarchist. I will not accept stupid categories that do not fucking mean anything. Like borders. And I heard this one dumb say, "Oh, everyone in America totally agrees, that we need to strengthen the borders." And like, I think they should be gone.
Yeah, not everybody. I guarantee that.
Yeah, or how about this? Like I said to you before, okay. Even I always buy like to buy people selling, and then they still explain like it's wrong. Even if I could agree with borders, I do not agree with not letting people in that are seeking asylum. Yeah. What the fuck?
No, that's right.
Greatest country in the world. Oh, really? You can't even help fucking destitute people that are begging for help? Yeah. So then I would hate borders again, right? Even if I could agree that, okay, maybe they mean something good. Oh, then immediately you show me they don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, again, how would you keep them out? I hope they come in.
Why would I keep anybody out if they need help? Like, that's the thing. That's absolute. What a joke.
And okay, I guess if your border is so important and you're so great, how come you don't do a lot more humanitarian? They always talk about humanitarian aid. yeah, that's the stuff that they do as they're destroying you. Because a lot of times they just mean bombs, and then, or that after they bomb everything, well, they call it humanitarian aid because then they help you as you're now burning alive or destitute. Oh, okay, yeah, let's feed them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, instead of like just having like war type of things, but all food, like food, not bombs, you know, just do it with that intensity that America loves. Just throw billions at like it's like
right.
going out of style.
Yeah,
but
give away that much food rather than blowing people up might do a whole lot of difference.
Oh, it would do a lot. Just like I know there's some regions where the water is a big deal. If they just supplied water, it would slow down a lot of the violence and stuff. It's evil. These supposedly great things that I'm supposed to believe in prove to me that when they could do the right thing, they don't. It reminds me, like I told you already, and I'm not going to go into big. I want to go back to the thing, but just make a comment about Biden. So it's fucking irritating that Biden acts like, you know, he's doing so fucking great. I mean, literally, I told you though, whenever, because they need supposedly like to win, right? They need to have the far leftists and any rightists that will come with them to join, supposedly, right? The centrists think this,
of course.
So but the problem is, like I told you, they don't really do anything to inspire us to want to fucking vote them.
All they do is placate the right.
I'm more am going to probably dread vote than somehow feel supporting anything. Yeah. Right. And I'm just saying, I told you, they always appeal to the right. That's what's fucking gross. They always say that they're not on the right, that they're on the left, which they're really not, but that they say this, right? But the proof is, how often do they really fight for the far left? No.
Never.
Fucking no, but they will fight for maybe some far right.
Democrats are the ones paying for Cop City. Democrats are the ones putting anti-immigration stuff in action to placate the right.
Well, exactly. Like Biden, he wants to close the border and do all this by executive order or something. Just happened today.
Yeah.
Right. Which I said that's what they were saying.
Because it couldn't get the votes because it didn't even placate the right enough to get the votes. So why even do it? Why even fucking do it?
Yeah. Because you have to be literally inhumane for the purpose of just simply being inhumane. Then you're on the right side.
Okay.
But it's crazy. Like you said, they'll so it is crazy, right? They won't do anything to actually get a leftist or anybody even leaning progressive practically, but they'll try for the right that they don't get anyways. But so they end up just going board to the right for no reason, really.
Yep, exactly.
Because maybe they pick up a few centrists. I don't know.
At least if you did something that the left likes, like student loan forgiveness for real, or like, you know, rent, if the rent had been stalled still, like maybe you would actually get some leftists to be like on your side, even though right now kind of the big deal is that he's still supporting the genocide. But
well, yeah, ridiculous. And he, like, you know, double talks. Oh, I've red lines, and then they break them. He's like, well, that's not a red line. Okay, he's bombing a town and burning them alive. Yeah, not a red line. Like, what fucking crazy, you know, sick. Yeah. Anyways, I don't want to go into all that.
Yeah. Yeah, we could spend all day on that.
Yeah, because I really wanted to do the hunter-gatherer stuff. So, but it's similar. Those that have to do with a lot of bigoted opinions. He thinks he's doing great because he thinks somebody cares. If you did a poll even of America, not all Americans are totally gung-ho with the genocide going on in Israel. I mean, just as a general rule. And so he's not, and so he thinks he's leading. And what he means by that is not doing what the people want. That's what he means by leading. Yeah. That's seriously. I know that's what his sick mind thinks. That leading equals doing something that no one else wants to do. No, that's not leading.
Nope.
Doing something good, that would be leading.
Yeah. What you're doing is you're imposing your worldview
it's
onto the rest of your
exactly.
citizens.
Yes.
That's but
yeah, which it's basically, anyways. So, but so we're going to go back to
yeah, a quick understanding of complex hunter-gatherers. So complex hunter-gatherers are hunter-gatherers whose cultures and societies have cultural, social, and economic traits that anthropologists and other scholars had long assumed required agriculture for them to develop. Permanent inequality is the trait that has attracted the most attention among archaeologists, but others include large and dense populations, large, relatively permanent settlements, and intensive economies, among other characteristics. First, widely recognized by archaeologists in the late 1970s, they have been a focus of major research efforts since. This research has been a testing ground for many theories about the origins and evolution of social complexity, especially of the origins and development of permanent inequality in small-scale societies. A hunter-gatherer or forager is a human living in a community or according to an ancestrally derived lifestyle in which most or all food is obtained by foraging. That is by gathering food from local, naturally occurring sources, especially edible wild plants, but also insects, fungi, honey, bird, eggs, or anything safe to eat, and or by hunting game, pursuing and or trapping and killing wild animals, including catching fish.
Right, fishing.
Yeah, that's right.
AKA fishing.
Also known as, yeah, that's right. This is a common practice among most vertebrates that are omnivores. Hunter-gatherer societies stand in contrast to the more sedentary agricultural societies, which rely mainly on cultivating crops and raising domesticated animals for food production.
Right, but hold on a second. So the Tlingit were had domesticated dogs.
Right.
They were sedentary, and then they were, doing aquaculture, and they were hunter-gatherers.
Right. It's almost like you can't put every group into this. This is the box of this.
That's why I don't think you should. I don't think that you, in a sense, you should. That you should be looking what they are exhibiting, and then just identifying what that is. Well, why are we trying to fit things into stupid? Yeah, I don't think so.
Well, no, these have to be a hunter-gatherer society because they were, or this has to be an agricultural society because it was sedentary, right?
Right. Once again, that's just our bigotries. It's just we should just identify what it is. That's how I try to use the words. Is simply identifying what's going on,
right?
And not doing all that kind of stuff in the background.
Yeah. So yeah, they're raising domesticated animals for food production, although the boundaries between the two ways of living are not completely distinct. Hunting and gathering was humanity's original and most enduring successful competitive adaptation in the natural world, occupying at least 90% of human history. Following the invention of agriculture.
Isn't that a big deal?
It's a pretty big deal. 90% of human history. It's a pretty big deal, yeah.
Corey's like, I don't know why as an anarchist I have to learn about this, goddammit. Yeah, 90% of human history. I don't know. You tell me. Does that sound important?
It's a pretty big deal. Yeah. Following the invention of agriculture, hunter-gatherers who did not change were displaced and conquered by farming or pastoralist groups in most parts of the world.
Violently, in most parts of the world. Yeah, oh yeah. Colonizers fucking violently from 7,000 or something, 8,000.
Yeah. Yeah, that's that thing of, well, now we need this land, so you can't use it for anything that we want.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they killed other people and took it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hunting and gathering was presumably the subsistence strategy employed by human societies beginning some 1.8 million years ago by Homo erectus.
You're like, oh, come on. That's not even that old. No, the younger creationists are like, wait a minute, that's a lie.
That's too big. You can't have that. Yeah. And from its appearance some 200,000 years ago by Homo sapiens. Prehistoric hunter-gatherers lived in groups that consisted of several families, resulting in a size of a few dozen people. It remained the only mode of subsistence until the end of the Mesolithic period, some 10,000 years ago, and after this was replaced only gradually with the spread of the Neolithic Revolution. The late Pleistocene.
I don't really think that word, just so you know, the revolution part, that was the thought that it had to be some drastic change.
Oh,
it really was a slow, process, but change did happen. But yeah,
the Neolithic evolution more than the Neolithic Revolution.
Yeah, and also, I don't think that there was a thought that it was all about the new type of food,
right,
and how you could store it. But I also think that is right in the time of the climate change event that pretty much threw the whole world for hundreds of years in a real, dire straits where people are dying off.
Right.
Suffering at least. And so I'm just saying that people have to realize that things happen together, because just like at 12,000 something, almost the time of the supposed Neolithic Revolution was also a climate event. I think it's the Younger Dryas event. So there's all these different, which is like colder and drier or whatever. And that really changes, like every place that you could eat before, now you're dying. You can't eat, nothing grows.
Right.
Anyways, or it doesn't grow well. Anyways, so and that is a right when agriculture, maybe the agriculture was inspired because people were starting to starve and they were limited in food resources and went to eating plants and grains.
Had to figure shit out, right?
Right. And so it might have been inspired. Just like I told you, it looks to me like after the 8,000 event, 7,000 or some, becomes the inequality begins. Those clans take over, the male clans from, I think, Western Siberia. And anyways, but those clans, they take over. But like I told you, but inequality was actually 8,500 in Western Siberia, and building of these, structures that I think relate to mounds,
right,
kurgans, and eventually pyramids. And it had to do with ruling elite. It's still similar thing. That's what I said. I wanted to do all this video to understand. And guess what? That was done by hunter-gatherers, complex hunter-gatherers again. So who built the first forts in the world? Complex hunter-gatherers built them 8,500 years ago in Western Siberia. Not only did they do that, they also, in a sense, I think it's 8,000 or something, started doing these mounds, almost mound structures or whatever, some kind of a religious thing.
Okay.
But eventually, I'm saying that led, I think, to, because then right in the same similar area, there's the first kurgan with a kurgan's like a bear mound, and there's a person in the middle and a big mound is put on top.
Okay.
But it's a worship of an elite. So whenever you see a mound, you're not seeing a cultural behavior as in, like I say, an anarchist, everybody's equal. It's a burial mound. No, only a few people get burial mounds. Anyways, so my thing is, it's about the birth of power.
For sure.
So I'm saying is that this happens and then moves out. It's a cultural thing. But I think that it may have just stayed in Western Siberia if nothing changed. So it's not that the climate event invented inequality or whatever, or this new clan bullshit that ended up terrorizing the world. I think that it might have started there, and then because of the 8,200 event, right when it got going, then it was already powerful. It just took over, went to Europe 7,000 years ago. Goes down into, the Cossack Mountains and then Mesopotamia. It just starts going all over the place, doing all, terrorizing everybody in a sense, raiding or whatever. But in a sense that, or bringing down that certain kind of ideas of mounds and power and, inequality in a sense.
Okay.
Because of the weather. Everybody left Siberia because fucking got cold and it get hard to live. So they go down and raid, in a sense, and go to Europe, get out of Siberia. So in a sense that the ideas and stuff pushes its way out.
It's interesting. So in a sense, yeah, like it's interesting to think of it like as hand in hand. So like the weather kind of caused them to do that. And
Well, and
yeah,
actually, we're going to do a whole thing one time on just the weather and all that. Every time, this is really crazy. Every time there's a weather event, something happened. The 5,000, what the 100, 200. That's exactly when Egypt got its first pharaoh.
oh, okay, huh,
5,150 or whatever, 5,200 or whatever, or
interesting.
100. So years ago. So I'm saying that's what there's a climate event right at that time. I'm not saying, like I said, I was trying to say, I don't think like some kind of weird thing that the climate event is exactly, but it influences what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
It
Yeah.
changes, like that's all I was trying to say. That it's not, but if you look at them, every time people don't realize climate change, you really need to get every time terrorize people.
Yeah, it's like the conditions within which people are living have changed. So the variety of cultural changes are going to come from that. A variety of social changes are going to come from that.
Exactly. So it inspires people to act different.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Everything
sure.
is, Garden of Eden or whatever in this
If
sense.
there's a food shortage, then people are behaving in a way that comes from a
Right.
food
So I'm just
shortage.
making a comment, but that's not always. Sometimes when there's an overabundance of food,
Right.
like in the Pacific Northwest, that actually led to inequality.
That's going to do it. Yeah. Yeah.
But anyways, but that's because they could dry the salmon and then have somebody has a bunch of salmon and you have no food.
Right.
Now you
So
have
now you have,
capitalism.
yeah.
They can actually sell, and they also have people that work for them and fish for them or whatever. Anyways, I'm just saying, so it's because slaves and laborers, they in a sense worked and hired and did stuff. Anyways, because they had wealth, which is I know different, but to me, like I don't see capitalism having to be like industrial society. I see it as a behavior. I mean, just think of it now. Is everybody who engages just a thought experiment of why I think I'm correct in the sense, or that maybe we should just think different, is everybody now that engages in capitalism all an industrial society across the
No.
world?
No.
No. So
No.
I'm just saying that there are conceptions of who can do it or when it's happening or how it came about. I think, to me personally, like I told you before, we should do it like I said about in the beginning about what's a hunter gatherer or agriculture. Let the society figure it out. Don't make some rule that everything has to somehow cram into your limited conception. What the fuck?
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. I think along those lines, like Zoe Baker did Anarchopack did a really good video on what a proletarian is, and like kind of went through the different definitions and different categories that people were fit in and over the course of different history. So it's similar with capitalism. I think is that you've got like these are the behaviors that we attribute to capitalism. How do you coordinate that with, say, feudalism? Like, was feudalism capitalism? Kind of. Yeah, it kind of
Well,
was.
you already know, Corey. Me, it is. To me, 7,000 years ago, I think the origin of it was probably someplace in Europe.
Right.
Probably, I told you, southern and Austria and Germany, probably southern Germany or something, because there's all kinds of hordes. In Germany has evidence of 4,000 or 4,500. I can't remember now. Slavery, like live-in slaves. And they found just recently, they found a 6,800-year-old chieftain in Germany. But they don't understand, people went from Turkey and they through the Balkans and then straight into practically Germany within 7,500 years ago. And they were fucking warlike. They brought fucking down, terror. Just think of this. I think they killed like 20% of the population. Or 30%, something like that. So I mean, but a lot. So I'm not saying that they went out like and murdered everybody, but there's a lot.
But that's a lot.
It's a lot.
30% of a population is pretty huge.
They were definitely murderous, and there's several mass burials and stuff, and yeah. anyways, so if the farmers were not like people, in other words, people think like, oh, just to go back to the point, hunter-gatherer, savage, uncivilized, agriculture is civilized.
Not
Well,
so much.
history says when agriculturists met the nice hunter-gatherers, they literally genocided them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how that's the symbol of humanity or something, because you have agriculture. Look, agriculturists, they were literally inequality. And it just kept getting worse. But anyway, so I think that started. I think that either that idea directly went over, because it goes to Siberia from Germany eventually, goes to Russia and Siberia. And then from there, I think might even go over to the Americas, the idea. Or, and just in general, that idea is what power wants, in a sense. So every time you get to a certain level of power, you just get capitalism, because it just relates to hierarchy.
Yeah.
So I do think that it's possible that several places just individually did it, because when you consolidate power,
that's kind of just how it goes.
It's also why, as an anarchist, I told you, I didn't even think of saying socialist, communist, whatever. I just thought anarchist, because an anarchist is, I think, against hierarchy. And then I heard some dumbass people saying capitalism and anarchism. Capitalism? What the fuck? Why don't you say Nazism and anarchism, dumbass?
Yeah, it's so long as you have like that private property concept, and like the idea that I can make something with this and you have to get it from me at my will by doing things for me or by buying it from me or what have you, then you have a form of capitalism. And ever since, we talked about the Egyptian workers.
That's right.
Building the pyramids
3,500 years ago, first strike. I think that's the time.
Yeah, that's right. Trying to get like their wages. They weren't getting their grain and their beer.
For 2 or 3
right?
weeks, they did not get paid. Yeah, it was like 2 or 3 weeks of pay, no pay. So yeah, today workers, 2 or 3 weeks not paid. Corey, would you get pissed?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes, I agree. Solidarity with the Egyptians needing their back pay, man. Damn.
Yeah, that's right. But I guess if we want to get back to the late Pleistocene witnessed the spread of modern humans outside of Africa, as well as the extinction of all other human species. Humans spread to the Australian continent and the Americas for the first time, coincident with the extinction of numerous predominantly megafaunal species.
Now, just go back to the Americas when it says they got to Americans 15,000 years ago. Yeah, no, that's wrong. No.
Oh yeah.
No. There's evidence now about 25,000, but I really think that there's also some that looks good for 30,000 and the 40,000 and maybe even 50,000 or even 60,000. Those are I don't know, but the whole thinking before was that, in a sense, everybody had to wait for the ice to go through. But if you go back to 40, 50,000, there is no ice, in a sense, or there's certain portions where there was none or was. So that affected but their thinking was that nobody got over there until like 20,000 and it was ice in the way. And so they had to wait till 15 to get through. But they also, there's evidence that people might have, if you'd not gone in an earlier time, because Argentina has stuff, it's like, I think 15 or 18,000 years old, or Chile or something, way down in South America, like near the bottom. And so they couldn't have just got him to 15,000 and got all the way down there.
Right.
No. Yeah. Ain't gonna do it. So but they would, even by boat, they couldn't have done it that fast. But they do eventually get down there, right? So we know that. So they had to come in sooner. And it doesn't really matter to me. They say that it's impossible for them to go over the glaciers. But I also just throw my 2 cents out of that. Why? Well, because they say no food. So they go by the water, they can fish the whole way.
Mm-hmm.
Just as the concept that people don't know why the archaeologists choose one way or the other. They either went through land when the glacier melted, so it ends up like in Montana through maybe Alberta or maybe even Saskatchewan. I don't know. But I think maybe it's Alberta, somewhere in the mountain states, I think, where it goes down into Montana. But there's an area where the ice got through, people could come through, and then they went to New Mexico, and that's where they found what they call Clovis stone tools. And they thought, these are the first people. Graham Hancock talks about all the time. Oh, archaeologists used to think that these were the only people. Yeah, and now they don't. And it's been a long time. Like, what the fuck? What does that have to do with what we're talking about right now?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that I don't agree with that. I do agree that it's probably 15,000 years ago that the ancient North Eurasians may have gone over. But this is going back to the Graham Hancock thing we talked about before. It's probably QDNA who does relate to the ancient North Eurasians. So when he thinks ancient North Eurasians, he's thinking RB1 because they became white at about 15 to 18,000 or something years ago, or maybe got a gene that became white or whatever, or whiter.
Okay.
Because everyone was already kind of getting lighter. They left Africa in the branch that became both of the Asians. Oh yeah, the one became of the Asians becomes Europeans, but the two Asian branches are both kind of lighter, and then they branch off and both get lighter. So that's also why some people say, oh well, the Asian branch developed on its own, and well, they split off something that was already getting lighter, and then they both got lighter. So not like stretched imagination. They both did, and they're both almost in the same area of Siberia. So they both got lighter for a reason.
Right.
Anyways, in almost the same exact area. Anyways, but then one goes to Europe, and that's why people think, oh, we're Europeans. We're from Europe, and they're actually from Siberia. Yeah. But anyways.
Okay.
Well, because it was the next thing you're going to read is the ancient North Eurasians, and we had talked about them before. I was just explaining all that.
Right.
And also explaining how the Graham Hancock, the people that think that maybe white people came over. No white people came over. QDNA came over. cDNA came over. If you want to say that did stuff, I'll agree. If you want to say nDNA, who did become light skinned, we could call them white, but we're still natives. They come over also, and only in the north mainly, but so that you can't say they went everywhere. But they're into Canada, like the northern stuff. Anyways, that doesn't fit though their narrative, right, at all. Right. That's why they can't pick like one that they have to pick one that went to Europe and say, oh, see these great Europeans, like that one they talked about. Somehow the epitome of hunter-gatherers is Europeans, and the lowest one is
somehow.
Yeah, you get what I'm saying? Yeah. Nonsense.
Yeah.
But outside that kind of bigotry, I'm just saying that the ancient North Eurasians did involve the DNA of R and Q.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that both of them were the same.
Right.
That's two different DNAs.
Yeah, exactly.
And they actually have whole different stories. Like Q is 90% of South America. R is not.
Right.
Totally different stories, but it's like 90%, I think, of Europe is R something. R1B, almost anybody who's white in Europe, likely, there's a few might have some Asian gene for light skin, but got their light skin from, R. It's just a fact. But it's not that also, this is another thing too. It's not that, like I said, there's other Asian ones that also have genes. I think there's like 3 different genes that make light skin.
Okay.
In other words, I mean is like one like branch that does it, another branch that does it, and another branch that does it, or something like that. But there's not a lot, so I mean, it can be traced back to very, very few people. Is what I'm trying to say. It's not that old. And it's not like it's big a deal anyways to me. I'm just trying to explain it's wrong to say that white people went to the Americas and built fucking anything.
Of course.
Until Vikings.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the long story of what I was trying to ramble on about, is that
That's fair.
But so that's what you're reading, Ancient North Eurasians. Go ahead and read that.
Yeah, so ancient North Eurasians lived in the extreme conditions of the mammoth steppes of Siberia and survived by hunting mammoths, bison, and woolly rhinoceroses. The settlement of the Americas began when Paleolithic hunter-gatherers entered North America from the North Asian mammoth steppe via the Beringa land bridge.
Right, and so going just to a second. Now, Paleolithic hunters and gatherers, that is a more of an important way of looking at it in a sense, because it's a time frame.
Mm-hmm.
It's
right
before the Neolithic, so nothing.
You're not placing them, yeah. So there's nothing primitive or complex or what have you.
Well, I'm just making the comment that when you see it by that, you're seeing it in a sense by time.
Yeah.
And also, there's another thing too. Don't you think that the culture would change if it used to hunt mammoths and woolly rhinos, and all of a sudden that there isn't any of that? And
those don't exist anymore.
Or deer or something. Yeah, they're gone. I'm just saying, don't you see you'd have to change?
Yeah, for sure.
To the food source, in a sense. It's like if all of a sudden there's no more salmon, and the people in the Northwest would have to go to another fish.
Yeah.
So I'm just making a comment that also influences what people think of as hunter-gatherers or how complex they are. Let's say you don't need to be very complex. We have mammoth, tons of freaking food. In fact, there's some more than you can eat.
Right. There's lots of food, so.
Colt, you can throw a big party. Everybody can hunt the mammoth. We all can cook and eat it. A great-ass time, bring a big barbecue. My point is, it doesn't inspire them to be that complex, and yet they were.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've already talked to you before about the Gravettian or Graviton, whatever damn name is, culture, where from about 30,000 till I think it's 17 or 20 or something. But then the epigraviton kicks in, and they actually go to Turkey, so that their influence of making that and those kind of hunter gatherers, and they're complex. This whole thing of simple is like, when did you think simple was? There are a few groups that may have been what you call simple, but there was always complex. Like, once again, did I show you 35,000 in Africa? Yeah. This is not no new thing.
Yeah, that's right.
And so it's just to understand that it's not like, and like I said too, to understand too that the culture changes when, like, the woolly mammoth dies, and that's going to change the culture. So it's going to be a different kind of hunter gatherer. I don't think these people are fishing. Why? You don't need to. You have too much food.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm just saying. So in a sense, some complexity happens because of necessity. But if you had no reason, it's like you. If you had no reason to work hard, would you?
I wouldn't work as hard as I do, that's for sure.
Right? Neither would I. I do in the jacuzzi a lot more.
Yeah.
So you get my point, is that is in a sense what everybody in a sense has a similar value. They would like to not have to work that hard.
Yeah.
And yet be sustained in a sense.
That's right. Yeah.
So, but that's where capitalism doesn't have no goal of that.
No, that's
capitalism wants disgusting levels of wealth within disgusting levels of forced inequality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have to work as hard as possible without the gain from having it.
Speaking of which, California, right, raised the minimum wage to $20 an hour for fast food workers. There's a place I like to eat fish tacos in California.
Oh yeah.
Rubio's Fish Tacos. They said they closed down like 18 or 20 places or something. I can't remember now. Because they said, because they're raising it and we can't, for. Here's my thought. Even though I love those tacos, fuck you. Yeah. Because if you can't pay them, then you shouldn't be open.
That's right.
You mean, this is what you mean. You can't pay yourself to the level that you want.
That's right.
To keep them open. It is not about, it's not the lie. It has nothing to do with the workers.
No.
You come on. the executives are getting billions and shit, and they're like, "Oh, these workers making $20 an hour. Oh my god."
Yeah, that's the thing. It cuts into the profits for investors, right? If everybody who's working there is making a good wage, then there shouldn't be anything left over. Actually, the owner, the quote unquote owner, should take a wage, but they shouldn't be massively taking the
totally agree.
the
Owners should
profit.
take a wage, but see this, but that's treating everybody the same, which
right.
I totally agree.
Yeah,
I totally agree. You just mean you cannot make excess wealth.
that's right.
I don't think you should, anyways.
Yeah. Go fuck yourself. Too bad.
Yeah, but so even though I felt sad, damn, I missed that. I wish that store was where I live now. To get fish tacos. But I think they should, fuck themselves also, because, hey, if you can't pay workers, fuck you. That's it. Yeah. Fuck you. I don't even want to hear some bullshit. There's no bullshit. You just fuck you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever. Fuck off. Anyways, just like I told you, if I was to hire someone, I'd pay him $30 an hour, because I think that should be minimum wage. How about that, motherfucker? $20 scares you? Fuck, I think it should be 30. So go fuck off.
Yeah, that's right. 20 still wouldn't necessarily be a living wage, depending on where you.
I don't even think 30 is actually living wage. I'm just making a comment. It's not. It's inhuman to pay someone so fucking low that they can't even eat.
Yeah.
Have you seen how much? Like, have you been to, like, I don't know, to grow? Maybe it's different where you're at, but like they go to a fast food restaurant and you used to just get like a hamburger and something. They're like $25. 20 fuck! I just got one sandwich and a drink and fries, and it's $25.
Right.
And they always
they used to say that's what would happen if they raised the wages up to $15 an hour or $20 an hour.
But I'm in Florida, and that is not the case. The wages are not that high.
The food is more expensive, but the wages didn't go up.
But here's the other thing. It's really weird. If you drive around, every store is a different price. Like the same restaurant, but in different towns, different price. Just like, here's something else fucked up I've learned as I've driving around. Different stores in different areas are totally It's fucking fucked up. You'll go to one, nice as hell, right? And it's fast food. So you're not even expecting real butter. You're expecting some yellow grease that is made of corn oil or maybe canola or whatever.
Right.
Soybean oil, whatever. Anyways, some shit that is not real. But some stores, I'd say that's the norm, right? But some stores, like in, I guess, rich areas, have real butter. So, but not for everybody, just for this thing. It really fucking pisses me off when I saw shit like that, and I got real this and nice this, and I'm like, why isn't this everywhere? How the fuck do they get away with doing this for these fuckers? And then when I go down to so when you come to the ghetto, you want us to stay in the ghetto, not get the opulence that you give these fuckers for free, but not us, right?
Yeah.
I fucking hate capitalism. But,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go back to the reading.
Sure. Starting at the transition between the Middle to Upper Paleolithic period, some 80,000 to 70,000 years ago, some hunter-gatherer bands began to specialize, concentrating on hunting on a smaller selection of often larger game and gathering a smaller selection of food. This specialization of work also involved creating specialized tools such as fishing nets, hooks, and bone harpoons. The transition into subsequent Neolithic period is chiefly defined by the unprecedented development of nascent agricultural practices. Agriculture originated as early as 12,000 years ago in the Middle East and also independently originated in many areas, including Southeast Asia, parts of Africa, Mesoamerica, and the Andes. Forest gardening was also being used as a food production system in various parts of the world over this period. Across Western Eurasia, it was not until approximately 4000 BCE that farming and metallurgical societies completely replaced hunter-gatherers. These technologically advanced societies expanded faster in areas with less forest, pushing hunter-gatherers into denser woodlands. Only the Middle Late Bronze Age and the Iron Age societies were able to fully replace hunter-gatherers in their final stronghold, located in the most densely forested areas.
They're talking about Europe, by the way.
Makes sense.
Because I'm just saying, I just realized they didn't say that.
Yeah, no, it doesn't say that, but that fits, right?
Like, that's not everywhere.
No, no.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Unlike their Bronze and Iron Age counterparts, Neolithic societies couldn't establish themselves in dense forests, and Copper Age societies had only limited success. In addition to men, women engage in hunting in 79% of modern hunter-gatherer societies.
Okay, so read that again for the men that think that only men do hunting.
Yeah. In addition to men, women engage in hunting in 79% of modern hunter-gatherer societies.
Oh God, don't you hate
So,
when
like,
the truth
the
just
vast
explodes?
majority. Yeah.
Like, damn it, the truth fucking foils us
Son of a
again.
bitch, eh? Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah, so it really, it's not. It's just ignorance that people don't know this stuff, and so thus they believe nonsense
Right.
or are bigoted, from ignorance. I would hope not, because they're just pieces.
Yeah, not intentionally bigoted, but
Yeah, that's what I was
yeah.
saying. I do think there's a lot of people that probably aren't intentionally bigoted, but are still doing it. So that's like when you said everybody is bigoted, and I said no, everybody can act bigoted.
Yeah.
The difference.
Yeah, that's true.
To me, it's intent. At least what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? There's a difference. We think like somebody accidentally kills someone, or someone goes and intentionally kills someone. There is a difference.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
But like I said, because I do want to address it, that's why I try to address these different bigotries. We have this sexism and stuff that really, because I'm going back to, like, you ever seen those cartoons where they show a caveman pulling a woman by the hair and all that dumb crap?
Right.
Right. And so that also is not just sexist in the fact of, like, probably rape, but also that women did not engage in doing things like that, they're somehow waiting for men to say them all the time.
Right. A lot of those ideas, they're like still based on, like, at the time, gender roles.
Right.
And then they're like, yeah, well, this is how we view the way that cave people used to be or whatever, right?
I think and they were wrong, but yeah, and they were bigoted.
Yeah.
So, like you said before, if you talk about something from the 1800s or whatever, yeah, American senator from 1800s, you think, okay, a racist.
Yeah, that's right.
Just you don't even start out skeptical. You already start off with a biased opinion that this is probably not going to end well.
Yeah, and then you're surprised and pleased if it isn't that.
Yes, that's true. Like, oh wow, somewhat enlightened thinker.
Yeah, that's right.
All right,
Wow,
that's all why I like to make a point of these facts that go against, I don't know, the bigoted, racist, sexist, homophobic narratives.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, only a few contemporary societies of uncontacted people are still classified as hunter-gatherers, and many supplement their foraging activity with horticulture or pastoralism.
And let me tell you real quick about pastoralism. Most pastoralists are patriarchal and sexist, or somewhat controlling of women, and are also, once again, going back to chieftains. A lot of times, chieftains, clans. I think that a lot of that relates to the cattle stuff in North Africa and stuff, and that stuff came in from the Middle East by way of Siberia. That came in about 7,000 to 8,000 years ago, at the same time that area, Central Africa, North area, gets their deity, in a sense, the like male or some kind of a god. Anyways, maybe not male, but some kind of a deity, because sometimes it could be non-gendered. So that's why I was like, oh, wait a minute, I don't actually remember now if it was male. I better not say male. I don't really exactly remember, but anyways, my point is that and what they brought was cattle. That was a long way of saying that those ones that came in from the Middle East, they had domesticated cattle 10,000 years ago. Then they go down about 7,000 to 8,000 years ago and bring, or maybe even 9, bring maybe Egypt, but North Africa itself probably 7 to 8. But bring these cattle cultures, and with them is a hierarchical, patriarchal, sexist culture, clan chieftain stuff.
Right.
That comes with it. Just what I was trying to say is, just like when we can see the mounds moving and then the hierarchical moving with it, and as the mounds get more evolved, so does the chieftains. And to the point that I would say that the ones in Mississippi, to me, are kings. Quit calling them anything else. Quit being some, you're just not wanting to use it because it's not, Europe. Like, well, I'm telling you, there's not the Aztecs have kings. Like,
right.
So South America can do it, but not North America? And you don't think bigotry is involved in that?
Right.
Anyway.
I think my hat was cutting the circulation off to my head.
Sorry to hear that.
My vision on this side is kind of blurring on me the last little bit. I'm like, that's really fucked up. So I changed hats. Yeah, hopefully it gets better.
Right on. So I see you have land back. That's good, since we're doing, going to be doing, in a sense, several videos on this hunter-gatherers and on indigenous of the Pacific Northwest, especially.
For sure.
Explain even Aztecs and how that California and Peru and
one of my new shirts. I got 4 new shirts. So
right on.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's a good shirt for what we're dealing with.
It's an apt shirt.
Yeah.
I should have had my Free Palestine shirt before when we were doing the other stuff.
Right. That would have been good.
Yeah.
All right, so now you're going to read on agroforestry and foresters. And the reason that I bring this up is this is, in a sense, like forest management, which is that not a kind of agriculture, sort of?
I would classify that as agriculture, but
it's a kind of, or like, see, like I was talking about before, so maybe it's hunter-gatherer plus this agroforestry. Maybe it doesn't fit some, tight box. I'm just saying if they do this behaviors.
Right. Okay, so agroforestry / foresters. Agroforestry, also known as silviculture, or forest farming, sounds like agriculture to me.
You're like, wait a minute.
All the words sound the same.
Are we making word games? Are you just saying because natives did it that it can't be something? Wait a minute.
Hold on now.
But I would say that that's something that I think that everyone who's listening to anybody talking about native stuff is to always remember, are you seeing the real culture, or are you just getting your own bigoted impression or whatever?
Right.
So it's important. But and I also think that we need to just, instead of trying to fit them into something, how about just fit words to what they're doing?
Yeah, that's right. Just describe what they're doing.
Right? Yeah. I don't know. Since, especially like if our anarchist forefathers of teaching taught us, right? Remember, we read that you're just supposed to teach the plain truth. That's it. That's the whole anarchist perspective of teaching. Teach the plain truth. Well, I think that it should be done. That's also, in a sense, an assumed fact inside of that. If someone says that the teaching that should be done about the plain truth, then you also believe that the plain truth has a value to be taught.
Right.
Because if you're going to instruct on it, I don't know, then you must have a value to be taught by osmosis or whatever. So it has a value to be taught, and that's why I feel like both of us do it. Like, going back to it's not like we're getting money, or the reason doing it is because care to actually help people.
Yeah.
So
agroforestry is a land use management system that integrates trees with crops or pasture. It combines agriculture and forestry technologies. As a polyculture system, an agroforestry system can produce timber and wood products fruits, nuts, and other edible plant products, edible mushrooms, medicinal plants, ornamental plants, animals, and animal products, and other products from both domesticated and wild species.
And then pause for a second. And this can happen with hunter-gatherers.
Right.
Doing all of the above. I'm just saying that the conception of what a hunter, everybody thinks like hunter-gatherers are like once again, like Jimmy said, right? Primitive.
Yeah.
Okay, bigot. I see you. Who the fuck ever said they're primitive? Do you know anything you're talking about? You fucking 2 million followers. I don't know. Don't you have some like duty to educate?
He just fits the biases of his audience, I guess. Like, yeah.
So I mean, just from what little you've already learned, have I made any impression on you with the stuff presented?
Well, I mean, I guess I know well enough by now that when it comes to these things, when you say something, I can probably just believe you. So I was kind of on board already. But,
right.
but I appreciate the background. I appreciate the information that confirms that. Because clearly Jimmy didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. Hunter-gatherers are clearly more complex and more involved, right?
Right. So they're doing aqua management. They're doing tree management. They're growing fungi. So they're actually doing farming.
Yeah. They're just not doing the farming that he considers farming, right?
See what I'm saying? Not primitive. It's like literally just becomes bigoted. I mean, it just, there's no, as an anarchist, I look at it and I'm like, that is bigoted. There's no reason to throw those classifications. You just made arbitrary. Now, I don't mind, once again, it's about teaching the plain truth. I don't mind a classification that's beneficial because then that's what it's doing. Right. But a classification that's unbeneficial is fucking worthless or sometimes harmless. No, it's harmful. So it matters, is my point.
Yeah.
No, it's not harmless. It's harmful.
Yeah.
That these ideas, like him putting just the word primitive, hunter-gatherers. It just, now that you've already learned some stuff, it should already irritate you when you hear someone say that. You're like, hey, asshole.
Yeah. Well, me and Pam were talking earlier today because there was some summit of African countries, but it's happening in Korea for some reason. And so we're talking about, because they use the word civilized. And we're like, so who counts as civilized then? Like, what is civilized? What is primitive even? Like, these terms are loaded as hell. Like,
and it goes back to what I said. When I hear how Graham Hancock talks and how this guy talks, I hear implicit bias.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, even if, like I said, even if we give them benefit of doubt that they're not racist or bigoted in any way, in an external way,
right?
You're still doing it internally because I can hear your ideas.
Yeah, that's right. Your ideas perpetuate a bigotry.
Yeah, exactly. Like when you think that the natives couldn't have done their own stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna go with bigot.
Yeah, like that's just it's just bigoted right on its face, right?
I mean, then you're like going, "Well, I'm not a racist." I'm like,
maybe you don't feel like you are. Maybe you don't feel like
no. Your actions are pretty much your ideas. Yeah, what do you think? Ideas just float and come out of nowhere? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Anyways, like I said, we can't get people to agree that, and that's what I told you before. If I was debating him, I would not let him get away with just "I'm not a racist."
Right. Yeah.
No. First off, also to me, who tries very hard to be an anti-racist, sometimes have done things that was racist and was pointed out to me. Damien, that's fucking racist, and I was like, "It is."
Damn. That was shitty of me.
So, and so my point is that when you said that everyone is a racist, and I said everyone can act in racist ways.
Yeah.
Because it's a behavior. or sometimes it's a thinking. It's a type of thought process. When you, like I said, if you see hunter-gatherers as primitive, newsflash, you're a bigot.
Yeah, it's like I used to say, like, we shouldn't feel offended when somebody points out that we've done something racist, because it isn't a name that they're calling us. It's an observation of something we've done that they are pointing out is harmful.
I know I didn't get mad. I actually first was confused. I'm like, it is, and then I was like, okay.
I can admit I've gotten defensive when somebody has said that, but usually it's when it's another white person saying it.
Well, to me,
I'm like,
I don't care who's telling me as long as it's true.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And there's some evidentiary support or reasoned support. Because I'm a rationalist. I'm always willing to change my ideas if it is rational to do so.
That's fair. That's good.
And rational for me to do so has to be it follows logic and reason, or it follows evidence. That's it. If you don't have that, I'm likely not to change.
Yeah, that's right. Just an update. My vision is cleared. It must have been the hat that was the problem.
Yeah. Well, just like the hunter-gatherers, that they solve problems. Like, they're not stupid. They solve problems, and that solving of the problems makes them to a given area complex.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, they're like part of the ecosystem. Well, some ecosystems are simpler. Some ecosystems are complex. Guess what? So are the hunter-gatherers. Whoa, not crazy.
Right.
You know why? It's because like Corey's hat, right? In a sense, or whatever. We both wear glasses so we can see.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Since prehistoric times, hunter-gatherers might have influenced forests. For instance, in Europe by Mesolithic people bringing favored plants like hazel with them. Forest gardens are probably the world's oldest form of land use and most resilient agro-ecosystem.
Okay, so the oldest thing, and yet they were simple. Come on, or primitive. Come on,
right?
No. The
ancient. That's the word we're looking for, right? First Nation villages in Alaska with forest gardens filled with nuts, stone fruit, berries, and herbs were noted by an archaeologist from the Smithsonian in the 1930s. Forest gardens are still common in the tropics and known as Candian forest gardens in Sri Lanka. Huertos familiares, family orchards in Mexico, agroforests or shrub gardens, they have been shown to be a significant source of income and food security for local populations.
See, now, and I have many times told you, or maybe not you, but I think I've told you before, but I've told people, they're like, what can we do, Damien? I'm like, you need to make sure everyone's fed. You need to make sure they're housed. I mean, this is to me, what should you do? Those should be like big ones.
Yeah. Get involved with stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're like, well, how can we, make sure everyone's fed? How about this? Just a crazy idea. Every time there's a public place, like a public owned by the government, especially, right? Even in this system now, instead of planting trees that are not edible, plant trees that produce shit people can survive on.
Yeah.
How about that? How about you're watering all this grass? Take all that out and put vegetables, and then let people get them for free at every government thing. You're already watering the lawn that does nothing.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't even have to lower your water use or raise it. You simply take the lawns out, put vegetables, and give them for free.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's crazy, right? And I've heard people like, oh, well, if you do that, then it'll all rot. Oh, yeah, because when he has free food, people always just let it rot. Dumbass.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're really that worried about it rotting, you can always organize some kind of community thing where people come and get the food.
Well, you should do that. It's a great idea. Well, you get my point, though, is that I think that there really should be like food all over the place.
Yeah.
Free food everywhere. Like, what should there be? There should be free food everywhere. Then why is there not free shelter everywhere? What the fuck? This is what's so crazy to me. If we give free shelter to some people, that doesn't mean they're getting mansions.
No, that's right.
It just means that they're cared for. How does that not break your heart that people are not cared for?
And
I mean,
even if you have to look at it from the most cold-hearted capitalist perspective, people with homes get jobs better and easier and contribute to the society you want much better than people who are living on the street and can't, access what they need. It's just how it
I
works.
totally agree. Yeah.
Even if you're going to be the shitty person, that it's
Yeah.
like it's still better.
But the craziest and the most disgusting thing is, I know that you and me to them are like insane.
I know
how much you want to care about people, be ethical. I mean, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But anyways,
they just deny reality too, right? Like,
but they won't even feel guilty for not caring at all.
Yeah.
I mean, they think that we're extreme. Okay, so we're care too much for them, but you don't care at all, or care so little that it makes no difference.
Yeah.
and you, I don't know, an ethical scale of value. Which do you think is the good guy?
Caring too much or not caring at all? Yeah, it is. It's rather absurd, right? To think of like the argument being, well, you just care too much. Like you shouldn't care as much
it's
as
a
you
bad
do.
quality.
Yeah, like that. What are you talking about?
You need to be more heartless.
Come on now. You know that's not a good argument.
Yeah, because it hurts the investors, as you said.
Yeah,
let's keep reading.
The term agroforestry was coined in 1973 by Canadian forester John Bean.
Canadian? Oh, wow.
Yeah. But the concept includes agricultural practices that have existed for millennia. Scientific agroforestry began in the 20th century with ethnobotanical studies carried out by anthropologists. However, indigenous communities that have lived in close relationship with forest ecosystems have practiced agroforestry informally for centuries. For example,
wait a minute. So the indigenous people and the hunter-gatherers did it, and they weren't primitive. Okay.
Go figure.
They're for those people that like Jimmy and his nonsense.
Yeah.
They weren't primitive. Yeah.
For example, indigenous peoples of California periodically burned oak and other habitats to maintain a biodiversity collecting model, which allowed for improved tree health and habitat conditions. Likewise, Native Americans in the eastern United States extensively altered their environment and managed land as a mosaic of woodland areas, orchards, and forest gardens. Agroforestry in the tropics is ancient and widespread.
Doesn't that sound cool, though?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
A mosaic, I think really that's not probably a bad thing for us in general to look for the future like that. A mosaic, we need to have a little bit of everything. It's like this all or nothing to, tear it all down and plant, cabbage or whatever.
Yeah. Like we know that monocropping, the way we do it is terrible. Yeah. But because we have like in Saskatchewan, there's basically 3 or 4 main crops, and that's what everybody does.
It's insane. I know, yeah. And if they get a disease, like in Florida here, right? They do oranges. Yeah. Well, the oranges got disease. Everyone had to get rid of, like, I don't remember now, but a big portion of them.
Millions and millions of dollars in
like a lot of money, like fuck ton.
Yeah.
And because like in the one in my area, it would be 100%. They tore out every single tree. I thought they were going to build homes. Right? I thought they were building homes. All of a sudden, all the shit. Whoa! All the trees are gone.
That's crazy.
And then they started planting trees again, but this time have bags on them.
Oh, to prevent the disease. Yeah.
To keep out the bugs.
Yeah.
But anyway, so monocropping, like you said, they really, because of that, the same thing just wiped out everything.
Yep, that's right. Anyway. It makes the environment incredibly
monocropping is stupid. Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
That's going back to what we're saying here. So the natives had it correct. Oh, wait a minute. And we're the primitive? Oh, wait. I got confused.
Well, no. We're not primitive. We're just, whatever the other thing is.
Yeah.
Very funny stuff. Agroforestry in the tropics is ancient and widespread throughout various tropical areas of the world, notably in the form of tropical home gardens. Some tropical home garden plots have been continuously cultivated for centuries. A home garden in Central America could contain 25 different species of trees and food crops on just 1/10 of an acre.
Isn't that amazing?
That's awesome.
See what I'm saying? Once again, about primitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on now. That sounds like a new ecosystem way. And in fact, just imagine if I told, well, Jimmy, have you heard this new ecosystem planning where they just say what the indigenous people did? He'd be like, wow, see, now that's what I'm talking about. Not you right? Because literally, it sounds like you could sell that. You could like, yeah, our investors came up with this genius that figured out forestry, and this is the way. And just explain what native did, and people would, oh yeah, good answer.
Yep, for sure. But you can't say that it was the indigenous people who did it before. You can't admit that.
Say, and then tell them they were hunter-gatherers.
Yeah, that's right.
What? Like he said, hunter-gatherers can't do that. Really? You don't understand hunter-gatherers.
You don't know what, yeah.
That was the problem. The word doesn't need to change. You do.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's
You're
right.
the problem.
Yeah. So tropical home gardens are traditional systems developed over time by growers without formalized research or institutional support, and are characterized by a high complexity and diversity of useful plants, with a canopy of tree and palm species that produce food, fuel, and shade.
Isn't that awesome?
It is awesome.
To me, that's just like, it's once again, every time I hear that, I'm like, yeah, that just sounds so like good. Like that. That's got to be the way, right? Or sounds like a great way to do it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Like, why are we not doing this now? What the fuck?
Because it's not profitable.
Wow. It's the same thing with my free food. They're like, well, Damien, then you're going to hurt the stores.
Yeah. Well,
like, if it involves that starving people can eat, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, that's right. A mid-story of shrubs or fruits or spices, and an understory of root vegetables, medicinal herbs, beans, ornamental plants, and other non-woody crops. So they had like multiple layers, right? Like, that's amazing.
It's like I said, it's literally amazing and literally not primitive. So
yeah,
like I said,
super complex.
Right? See, but don't you feel now, Corey, once we start reading about hunter-gatherers, your whole concept of them is going to be bigger.
For sure.
And then we're not even done with the blog, but when we get a couple of videos in, you're going to hear about more information, and you're going to have a better understanding, big time.
Right.
Which is cool because I think everyone should learn about, especially ones that live on native land. Should be learning about indigenous people.
Yep. As much as we can, anyway. Like,
least that you can do. Especially not only that. To me personally, isn't it cool learning some of this stuff?
For sure.
Me?
No, I like it. Yeah, I love hearing about like some of the practices that indigenous people did that are actually better than the way we do things now. Like,
we should change to that model. That model right there. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah. For sure.
It makes sense too. You're doing all this stuff. It's like the Three Sisters thing. When these things are growing together, they all benefit each other.
Yeah.
They work in like, in community or whatever. Yeah. Like you said, our gigantic agro farming or whatever that does monocrops. Like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Bad.
A relatively little formal study has been devoted to these systems, even though they are essential to the lives of many people in the tropics. The Amazon rainforest, rather than being a pristine wilderness, has been shaped by humans for at least 11,000 years through practices such as forest gardening and terra preta.
See, pause for a second. Do you realize how crazy that is?
That's wild, eh? 11,000 years.
Everyone thinks that there was always forest there. But like, in other words, what I mean by that is they go, oh, the Amazon is the lungs of the world, helps the world breathe. I'm like, yeah, that actually is not natural.
Yeah, it's that way because people put it there. Because it was made that way.
That was actually an indigenous creation.
Yeah.
11,000 years ago. Oh, you mean back when they were primitive hunter-gatherers? Yeah, right.
We should say thank you. That's what we should say.
We should, right? For those, I mean, it goes back to like I told you before. I don't ever use the word primitive because I just every time I hear it is a bigot.
Yeah,
I have a hard time to because it's not a good useful classification to me.
right. Yeah,
Simple or complex is better, but primitive.
it's not terribly helpful, eh?
Because it's like a judgment. I'm judging that it's not evolved.
Yeah.
But what does that mean in relation to what exactly? I mean, so it makes you're like they said, all of a sudden you're back to, well, white people are good, Europe is good,
Right.
everyone else not, Yeah, that's actually just bigotry, racism.
Yeah, that's right.
Or like I said, implicit bias towards that, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyways, just say, how could you read any of this? Like how much the video we've already done, and not think that thinking that they're primitive. You ever put in that word? You're just a bigot.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, like we're really, really barely into this blog. Like,
barely, right?
So, yeah,
I got several videos to go, and you're going to learn all kind of stuff to know that how fucking wrong he is. But like I said, here's all the information. I presented it, got it all, put it in order to help you. Do you think those dumb fucks will read it? Nope. Or they'll say, oh, listen to this video, and they'll just, oh, you guys just want to hate on, people that are, making it, or, yeah. Oh, because they have 2 million followers, as if that's why I'm attacking this dumb fuck.
Yeah.
Why don't I attack other followers? A lot of people have 2 million followers. Why do I only attack the ones that talk shit about science?
Yeah. Huh, I wonder.
There's other people I could give a fuck. If you just have dumb fucking ideas, I just laugh and go, you're stupid. Like, say the earth is flat. I don't go into long, drawn-out conversations with people say earth is flat or the moon is a hologram. But if you say that scientists are stupid or start attacking science fields or whatever, I'm going to have to address that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that shit is fucked up. Anyways, because I'm a supporter of the plain truth.
Yep. As we all should be, but not all of us are.
Oh, yeah. Keep reading.
Since the 1970s, numerous geoglyphs have been discovered on deforested land in the Amazon rainforest, furthering the evidence of a pre-Columbian civilizations. On the Yucatan Peninsula, much of the Maya food supply was grown in quote-unquote orchard gardens known as pet cot. The system takes its name from the low wall of stones, pet meaning circular and cot meaning wall of loose stones, that characteristically surrounds the gardens. The environmental historian William Cronon argued in his 1983 book Changes in the Land that indigenous North Americans used controlled burning to form ideal habitat for wild game. The natural environment of New England was sculpted into a mosaic of habitats. When indigenous Americans hunted, they were harvesting a foodstuff which they had consciously been instrumental in creating. Most English settlers, however, assumed that the wealth of food provided by the forest was a result of natural forces, and that indigenous people lived off the unplanted bounties of nature. Animal populations declined after settlement, while fields of strawberries and raspberries found by the earliest settlers became overgrown and disappeared for want of maintenance. Aquaculture. Aquaculture, less commonly spelled aquaculture, also known as aqua farming, is the controlled cultivation.
Are we back to farming again? Dang it.
Yeah. What is this? Agriculture in a different form?
Not stay in the hunter category, damn it.
God damn it.
They're not primitive. Damn.
What the hell, eh? Yeah. It's the controlled cultivation or farming of organisms such as fish, crustaceans, mollusks, algae, and other organisms of value such as aquatic plants, for example, a lotus. Aquaculture involves cultivating freshwater, brackish water, and saltwater populations under controlled or semi-natural conditions and can be contrasted with commercial fishing, which is the harvesting of wild fish. Aquaculture is also a practice used for restoring and rehabilitating marine and freshwater ecosystems. Mariculture,
Do you
commonly
notice? Sorry, one second.
Yep.
Do you notice a theme how indigenous ways of doing things seems to work better in a lot of their ecosystems?
Yeah, they're used to restore and fix
or
systems
create
that have been,
ecosystems.
yeah.
Like so very not primitive.
Very not primitive.
They're literally are doing it so well. It's like they said, remember, the berries that the settlers planted, they died off of lack of maintenance.
Right.
Because they didn't understand, they weren't advanced. They didn't under complex, whatever.
Yeah.
They were not primitive. Yeah. So the white settlers were primitive in the fact they didn't design it so it worked in the ecosystem.
Right.
But when the indigenous did it and they were being not primitive, they would design it so the ecosystem actually worked together and was, doing all these things. Yeah.
Yep, for sure. Like it's like a technology that they had a more advanced version of. Right?
Right? Yeah. If it could talk about growing things and working in your environment, then they have us beat still.
Yep.
We're not currently doing great.
No. So mariculture, commonly known as marine farming, is aquaculture in seawater habitats and lagoons as opposed to freshwater aquaculture. Pisciculture is a type of aquaculture that consists of fish farming to obtain fish products as food. Aquaculture can also be defined as the breeding, growing, and harvesting of fish and other aquatic plants, also known as farming in water. It is an environmental source of food and commercial product which help to improve healthier habitats and used to reconstruct population of endangered aquatic species. Technology has increased the growth of fish in coastal marine waters and open oceans due to the increased demand for seafood. The Gunditjmara, a local Aboriginal Australian group people in southwestern Victoria, Australia, may have raised short-finned eels as early as about 4,580 BCE.
Right, so 6,580 years ago.
Right. Pretty crazy.
Right, and a lot of people think of this. A lot of not only hunter-gatherers, a lot of people try to say that the Australians didn't go through the Stone Age because they basically didn't go into any other metals or anything. They just stayed in the Stone Age.
Oh.
But once again, primitive is not a word that should be attached to cultures unless you're a bigot. And they were not being primitive. Oh, yeah, 6,580 years ago, or what it was, they're actually farming eels. Like, come on now.
Yeah.
So like I said, so the problem is not like archaeology saying Göbekli Tepe is hunter-gatherers. The problem is people's conception of what's a hunter-gatherer.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And then you're blaming the archaeologists that it's their fault.
Yeah.
No,
you may have to broaden your information about what hunter-gathering is or what hunter-gatherers do. Yeah.
Right, because once you start learning, then you're like, wow, I didn't know hunter-gatherers did all that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's because you were ignorant.
It's just because they're put in the box of hunter-gatherers, and that means that they can't do anything except hunt and gather.
And be simple.
Yeah, that's right. And stay primitive.
Hunter-gatherers couldn't have built that. That's too big. Just think how big this. How does that not sound bigoted? Yeah. Well, that's too developed for hunter-gatherers to do. What the fuck? Just added any other name, right?
Yeah.
That's too much for white people to do.
Ridiculous.
Sounds stupid, right? Yeah, just like it's saying hunter-gatherers can't do it. Especially, this is another thing that's really stupid. The guy's got 2 million followers. Don't you think you have any ethical thing to go read on what a hunter-gatherer can do?
Right.
Before you start thinking that of course they're primitive.
If you have an audience that size, then you do have a responsibility to get things right.
Yeah. Saying absolute untruth is fucking against the anarchist way for damn sure.
It's funny because my audience, like I just recently hit 1,000 subscribers on my channel.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But but that's 4 years in. It took me 4 years to do that.
Well, I told you, I think that you're doing great stuff and you should get more support. So
I appreciate that.
But I think I should get more support too. I'm literally fighting for the truth.
Yeah.
How does that not matter?
It's funny because I've stopped myself from doing certain things because I couldn't be sure that I was 100% correct on that thing. And so it's very frustrating to know that somebody's out there with that size of audience and they're just being willy-nilly about the fucking facts, right? Like they're just not, they don't care about what the truth is.
Well, haven't you already learned that hunter-gatherer is a lot more involved than you and complex than you thought?
Absolutely. And they had a lot of stuff going on that I had no idea. Like I kind of knew about some of the forest stuff because we've learned about that since all the forest fires the last few years.
Right.
But the stuff with the aquaculture, I didn't know any of that. That's new to me.
Or and forest farming.
The stuff about the Amazon, I didn't know that either.
Right. Well, and there's a bunch more that we're going to learn, everybody, because as I said, we're going to do this whole blog because I feel like if you don't grasp this, then when we talk about the Native Americans and stuff, and the cultures and languages, if you don't already understand and start with the truth, then because like I said, people have a bigoted opinion or an uninformed opinion, at least, of what hunter-gatherer is. Yeah. And so then when you hear that, these people are hunter-gatherers, your bigoted thoughts come into your head.
Yeah,
implicit or whatever, unrealized bias or whatever.
Yeah, your bias comes into play for sure, eh?
Yeah, and it's not right. There's keep going. There's a bunch of stuff. I think it's amazing, all this stuff. It's like, wow, see how smart they are? I don't understand why people looks down at people. I look at cultures, and especially they do like this kind of advanced stuff to me. I mean, you're calling these people primitive. What?
Well, yeah, it definitely reveals like a very supremacist idea. Like my culture is the best, and I'm the one that knows the best, and we are the ones that. It's those guys that are talking about like Western civilization is that
they have to save.
Yeah,
because that means that the civilization before we shouldn't save. But then again, I would say, how much does those people? Like I don't know who tries to save Western culture. What nonsense!
Oh, like even Sam Harris or Richard Dawkins, like those guys.
Right, ridiculous. Yeah, because somehow other cultures would not know good. Like we're learning here. Oh, actually, that opinion is why we don't have better forestry.
Yeah,
because if we had less bigotry, we could have learned from these native ways and then done the same thing. Or something different, not start with bigotry like we did and still do. Not you and me personally, don't try not to, but
yeah.
In general, too. I'm not perfect. But here's the thing too, that I think that once you're identified and then you address it, then that's a different issue.
Right.
But anyways, let's keep going.
Sure. So evidence indicates they developed about 100 square kilometers or 39 square miles of volcanic floodplains in the vicinity of Lake Conda in a complex of channels and dams, and used woven traps to capture eels and to preserve them to eat all year round. The local Buj Bim cultural landscape and a World Heritage Site is one of the oldest known aquaculture sites in the world.
Yeah, and they don't teach that in Jimmy education, I guess.
I guess not.
His thought is that if it's a hunter-gatherer, then it's primitive. So
right. Yeah.
Foolish idiot.
Oral tradition in China tells of the culture of the common carp, Cyprinus carpio, as long ago as 2000 to 2100 BCE, or around 4,000 years ago. But the earliest significant evidence lies in the literature, in the earliest monograph on fish culture called The Classic of Fish Culture by Fan Li, written around 475 BCE, 2,475 years ago. Another ancient Chinese guide to aquaculture, written by Yang Yu Jin around 460 BCE, shows that carp farming was becoming more sophisticated. The Jiahu site in China has circumstantial archaeological evidence as possibly the oldest aquaculture locations, dating from 6,200 BCE or about 8,200 years ago. But this is speculative. When the water subsided after river floods, some fish, mainly carp, were trapped in lakes. Early aquaculturists fed their brood using nymphs and silkworm feces and ate them. Ancient Egyptians might have farmed fish, especially gilt-head bream, from Lake Bardawil around 1,500 BCE, or 3,500 years ago, and they traded them with Canaan. Gim cultivation is the oldest aquaculture.
But then someone will say, but that wasn't capitalism.
Right. Gim cultivation is the oldest aquaculture in Korea. Early cultivation methods used bamboo or oak sticks. Newer methods utilizing nets replaced them in the 19th century. Japanese people cultivated seaweed by providing bamboo poles and later nets and oyster shells to serve as anchoring surfaces for spores. Hawaiians constructed oceanic fish ponds. A remarkable example is the Menehune fish pond dating from at least 1,000 years ago. At Alikoko, legend records its construction by the mythical Menehune dwarf people.
Yeah, but it was actually, of course, probably done to someone else, but
right.
The mythology doesn't matter. But the point is that they're doing all these really advanced behaviors, so like I said, it's really ridiculous when people think that they don't. And there's all kinds of other stuff too.
Yeah. Aquaculture can be conducted in completely artificial facilities built on land. Onshore aquaculture, as in the case of fish tank, ponds, aquaponics, or raceways, where the living conditions rely on human control, such as water quality, oxygen, feed, and temperature. Alternatively, they can be conducted on well-sheltered shallow waters near shore of a body of water, inshore aquaculture, where the cultivated species are subjected to a relatively more naturalistic environments, or on fenced/enclosed sections of an open water away from the shore, or offshore aquaculture, where the species are either cultured in cages, racks, or bags, and are exposed to more diverse natural conditions, such as water currents or ocean currents.
Right, and they could make, of course, cages out of all wood.
Right, for sure. DL vertical migration and nutrient cycles. In the first half of the 18th century, German Stefan Ludwig Jacobi experimented with external fertilization of brown trout and salmon. He wrote an article, it's all in German, I'm not even... beans on the artificial production of trout and salmon, summarizing his findings and earning him a reputation as the founder of artificial fish rearing. By the latter decades of the 18th century, oyster farming had begun in estuaries along the Atlantic coast of North America. The word aquaculture appeared in an 1855 newspaper article in reference to the harvesting of ice. It also appeared in descriptions of the terrestrial agriculture practice of sub-irrigation in the late 19th century before becoming associated primarily with the cultivation of aquatic plant and animal species. The Oxford English Dictionary records the common modern usage of aquaculture from 1887 and that of aquaculture from 1867.
Right, and people are like thinking, I've never heard of that before. Well, that doesn't mean it's not going on.
Yeah, that's right.
Your ignorance is not a excuse against the truth.
Nope. The information is out there. If you don't know, then just say you don't know. Don't make up some lie.
Right. So just read down to see this next section, permaculture, and then go ahead and stop where it says the change from hunting, gathering, life waves is from prehistoric farming. You're not going to read that. We're going to start next time on that. We do a video.
All right.
At that point.
So permaculture is an approach to land management and settlement design that adopts arrangements observed in flourishing natural ecosystems. It includes a set of design principles derived using whole systems thinking. It applies these principles in fields such as regenerative agriculture, town planning, rewilding, and community resilience. Permaculture
Yeah, I like
emphasizes,
rewilding, by the way.
yeah, yeah, that's pretty cool. Permaculture emphasizes patterns of landscape, function, and species assemblies. It determines where these elements should be placed so they can provide maximum benefit to the local environment. Permaculture maximizes synergy of the final design. The focus of permaculture, therefore, is not on individual elements, but rather on the relationships among them. The aim is for the whole to become greater than the sum of its parts, minimizing waste, human labor, and energy input, and to maximize benefits through synergy. Edward Faulkner's 1943 book, Plowman's Folly, King's 1946 pamphlet, Is Digging Necessary?, A. Guest's 1948 book, Gardening Without Digging, and Fukuoka's Do Nothing Farming all advocate forms of no-till or no-dig gardening. No-till gardening seeks to minimize disturbance to the soil community so as to maintain soil structure and organic matter.
See, now, does not sound like a good thing? I mean, certainly as
Yep.
an anarchist, that starts sounding like.
Actually, that's something that I see. We hear a lot of around Saskatchewan is the no-till farming. That's a thing that a lot of people are doing. Even though there's still monocropping, but they use the no-till method. So
That's cool.
yeah,
I'm just saying that these ways that people like, I guess that other guy think is primitive, are actually, to me, in the long run, better because they don't harm the environment. They help it to re-heal. I mean, in a sense, or get more productive, as they like to say.
it's the difference between the Christian version of belief where they say like we have dominion over the earth,
Oh yeah,
and the indigenous method of belief where they think we are in relation to the earth.
right. Well, I think in reality we're in relation to it.
Yeah.
So, so I'm with the Native Americans.
Yeah, absolutely.
That actually is
That's the
and I
truth,
also
right?
feel like, to me, that in general, that's why I like mutualism and stuff as a way of thinking and doing stuff that we benefit by helping each other.
Yeah.
And so I think that if you can learn to crop that way or raise family that way or communities or I just think I just see it as a really positive way.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was just gonna start reading again.
Yeah.
Low effort permaculture favors perennial crops which do not require tilling and planting every year. Annual crops inevitably require more cultivation. They can be incorporated into permaculture by using traditional techniques such as crop rotation, intercropping, and companion planting, so that pests and weeds of individual annual crop species do not build up, and minerals used by specific crop plants do not become successively depleted. Companion planting aims to make use of beneficial interactions between species of cultivated plants. Such interactions include pest control, pollination, providing habitat for beneficial insects, and maximizing use of space. All of these may help to increase productivity. Rainwater harvesting is the accumulation and storage of rainwater for reuse before it runs off or reaches the aquifer. It has been used to provide drinking water, water for livestock, and water for irrigation, as well as other typical uses.
Right. And of course, capitalists want to tax it and stop you from collecting rainwater.
There are places where collecting rainwater is illegal.
It's fucking nuts. I fucking hate shit. Once again, to me, laws like that, like I'm not anti any laws. I'm anti those kind of laws. That's absolute
rainwater. You don't get to own it.
Capitalists like I can't. You know what's really crazy? They'll say that, but then like California will give like Nestle like 4 billion gallons for like 150.
Yeah, and the CEO of Nestle will say shit like water isn't a basic human right.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah,
just evil.
Yeah.
Imagine a mind that thinks you can be both an anarchist and a capitalist.
Certainly misguided. Certainly very misguided.
Yeah, do you know what capitalism is? I'm like,
Right.
fuck is wrong? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like literally, it involves hierarchy and power.
Yeah.
And inhumanity and unethics. Like, I can't do it. How the fuck can you
Can't
do that?
even. Yeah.
What the fuck? No. But I know. I keep going.
Last paragraph.
Almost there.
Agroforestry uses the interactive benefits from combining trees and shrubs with crops or livestock. It combines agricultural and forestry technologies to create more diverse, productive, profitable, healthy, and sustainable land use systems. Forest gardens, or food forests, are permaculture systems designed to mimic natural forests. Forest gardens incorporate processes and relationships that the designers understand to be valuable in natural ecosystems. Permaculture derives its origin from agriculture, although the same principles, especially its foundational ethics, can also be applied to mariculture, particularly seaweed farming. In marine permaculture, artificial upwelling of cold, deep ocean current is induced. Natural building involves using a range of building systems and materials that apply permaculture principles. The focus is on durability and the use of minimally processed, plentiful, or renewable resources, as well as those that, while recycled or salvaged, produce healthy living environments and maintain indoor air quality.
And one of the reasons why I think we'll stop at their reading and then start next time at the other part. One of the things I think it's important because they always go to anarchists. Well, if you don't have every single thing, building crops and do it, no one will eat. And like, well, the way we have it now, you mean that we would have to do it differently so it doesn't require all of this effort?
Yeah, I mean, there's some things that we would have to adjust, right? We're already talking about taking the profit motive out of it and the private ownership of land and private ownership of the means of production. So there's things that can, but a lot of stuff can still run, in a functional way. So you still have people who are farming. You still could have people who are farming. Just you might
True, but I
more
was just
efficient
trying to
ways.
say that the concept now is not like that concept where everything where you get nature to act in a way that produces for you.
Right.
So
there's a lot of stuff that could be changed.
Imagine if every city, and just imagine if every city did that. Like there's no public park is not in a sense like a menagerie of food and things and whatever.
Imagine if we tore down every golf course and planted something useful on it.
Or even how about this? Look, if you can't you can't make a golf course unless you plant one of these things. How about that?
That's right.
You wish you want some mindless thing. Okay, fine. Support everybody else living.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you want to take away from this,
I would do it. What's the first thing that you would do? Oh, you can't destroy capitalism. Okay, a rich tax for sure. Absolutely. How about this? A maximum wage.
We tear down every country club.
Low wages. There should be a maximum wage.
Yeah.
Anything past that has to go back to the employees.
Yep.
What the fuck? You got your wage. It needs to go back. And you can't say, well, I'm, doing this vacation. I need 15 homes and a yacht. Nope,
you don't get it.
Anyway.
Too bad. Yeah.
But so we'll keep doing more on this. There's a lot, like you said, and I told you, we haven't even got to some of the art that I created just for this blog.
Right.
So I worked really, really, like I said, about a month. Normally, I don't work that hard, where I already have knowledge I know. This one, I knew, but I wanted to know better, and I also wanted to make it so that I could thoroughly explain it what a hunter-gatherer is and how amazing it is, especially because then the concepts of Graham Hancock's advanced culture as something different, special. Here's a bunch of advanced cultures. Which one are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Or the other guy, Jimmy, saying primitive. as if like because you're a hunter-gatherer, you're just like this, not evolved, and it's just, yeah. And I think all this is really going to help.
Good. Yeah, me too. I think it's very helpful.
Right on. Well, like I said, that's why I said I don't feel like I just do history. It's like activism. I just use history to support the activism.
Right.
In a sense, So I really feel it's important. That's why I didn't want to just do a history show.
Right.
When I if think of this, people. If I just want a history show, then I would get a person that only does that thing with me. Or I would only focus on that, but I absolutely don't want to do that because I feel like there's already a bunch of history shows.
And there are. I mean, and some of them are very good.
Yeah, no, I wasn't. Yeah, people should watch them, sure.
But they don't have an anarchist perspective. They don't have an analysis of power or like any kind of critical thinking analysis. It's just, here's history, right? Like this is just it. So
right, they're not debunking people and showing what archaeologists are saying.
Yeah,
for real.
Yeah.
But anyways, we'll keep doing the videos until we read the blog until the end. So we'll tell the place down where there's a picture down there if you want to scroll and look at what's there. If you want to, if people watch this or Corey,
yeah.
Go all the way. Keep going down. There's pictures and stuff. I've sent you personally some of the pictures already, so you kind of knew what I've been doing. Because kind of when I fix art, people, I send it to Corey and spam him with all my ideas. So Corey gets the blog in pieces.
Yeah, right. Like leading up to the actual show.
Right. Exactly.
No, that's good.
So you've already seen some of it. So I'm trying to show how they're more evolved. They're also more connected, way more connected than people think. They also moved around further distances, and cultural stuff went farther. And as we were talking about, religions go across both continents. I mean, so it's just a lot more evolved. Period. And even at the end, we're going to talk about. We start and one of the things talk about mounds. And then we're going to go at the back end and talk about pyramids in a sense, all right at the end, sort of.
Cool.
But it's going to be good.
Right on. All right.
So everyone, thank you for listening. And now, Corey, go ahead and tell us where to find your stuff so people can get some good leftist content.
Yeah, just you look it up on YouTube. It's the Skeptical Leftist Podcast or all your podcast apps. I used to have a website. I'm not paying for it anymore. It's not worth it. Not worth it, and it's not worth the work anyway. So I don't have a website anymore, but you can still find me on all the podcast apps and on YouTube.
Right on. I appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Hello, and welcome to my channel. I am Damien Marie AtHope. In the simplest terms, I am an atheist-humanist philosopher and prehistorical writer-researcher at DamienMarieAtHope.com. I am specifically an axiological atheist. An axiological atheism can be thought to involve ethical and value theory reasoned and moral argument driven apatheism, agnosticism, atheism, anti-theism, anti-religionism, secularism, and humanism. Axiological atheists can be understood as a value theory or a value science atheist. As an axiological atheism's ethically reasoned and constructive pro-humanity. I am an axiological thinker, value theorist. The science of goodness, worthiness, usefulness, valuableness, virtue, reliableness, accuracy, validity, morality, integrity, beneficialness, etc., etc. We axiologists have a value consciousness. And in general, we see the architecture of humanistic humanitarianism value in people that we see as dignity beings. places and things are not. Axiology is a value theory. In its broadest sense, it involves areas of philosophy that are deemed to encompass some evaluative or evaluation aspect. Therefore, it crosses almost all domains in some way or another. Now for a more detailed terms as to what I am. I am an axiological atheist, an anti-theist, an anti-religionist, secularist, humanist, rationalist, writer, artist, poet, philosopher, advocate, activist with schooling in psychology, sociology, as well as I am an autodidact, self-taught in science, archaeology, anthropology, and philosophy. I promote science and am against pseudoscience, pseudohistory, pseudomorality, things that are found in religion.